Yo. Hello. Here's Earl Grey. Hello, comic fans. And we have another nice chat this Sunday with lahrasa from England and comickkrakk from Canada and the other Sleepy, which is still the same Sleepy from the US of A. And Hey, here we go. And probably, like we already have figured out, the only viewers we will have will be not from Europe, of course, because of the finals. But we have a lot of contrast here and talk about comics. Okay. Nobody's watching it anyhow, and so I'm just talking with myself. It's right near. Yeah.
We talk. We can't talk. We're just waiting your
save my hide here.
Yeah.
Maybe people can mute their football and listen to us while they watch the football.
Right.
That's
my
a good
suggestion.
solution. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm doing as well.
Oh my.
Okay.
I got buses and trucks all of a sudden on my street, so I'm gonna mute. I'm still here though.
That's fine. So do you want to talk about comics?
Oh yeah. That's what we're here for.
Then we go with lahrasa.
Okay.
First. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's. Okay. So this week. No. Yeah. We'll chat. Okay. So this week, I don't know what happened, but it happens to me most of the time. Like my mood swings, but I was starting to organize my drawers once again, and I saw this one. So I never actually flipped through it, never read it. This is a volume 3 of Silver Surfer from 1987, and I have quite actually an amazing stack of it. I think this is collected in Epic editions as well, and so I never, as I say, I am not very much familiar with the Silver Surfer. The hype of Silver Surfer came like really suddenly, quickly, and I was too late or fall asleep not getting those original first volume run. And England just scored a goal, by the way, just to tell you that.
Really?
Yeah, they scored a goal in 2 minutes. Wow. Anyway, talking Silver Surfer now. Anyway, so this basically kicked off my week because as this Marvels does to you, and I think that's the beauty of it all, they have this beautiful back matter, and they were discussing Silver Surfer and how he came to be, how disappointing the first volume was, and there's lots of information also as in itself in the comic book. As you guys know, they give you this splash page, which is absolutely fantastic, and they also have a lot of, like they tell you, oh, this is what's going to happen, it gives you that, and then they give you titles of saying, oh, this has appeared in 300, FFF 300, and that kind of thing is just, I don't know, I guess I was in such an amazing mood for this kind of read. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I will talk more because I'm going to do that. I will talk more about the Silver Surfer and other chants when I have to talk about. But also I've been reading some other titles because of this. So this kicks in with this champion guy, and that's where my interest got really sparked my interest even more because of this champion and elders. And if you are aware of Marvel universe and its history, elders were part of the, of course, Guardians movies, especially one of the collectors. And I didn't know that there were so many of them because I'm still kind of new to this kind of stuff. I'm still discovering a lot of stuff because I haven't read comic books from that era. So yeah, and I really enjoyed it. There's lots of action, but that back matter, absolutely what really kickstarted me even wanting to read more. But of course, when you see Galactus, you just want to continue, like it's beautifully colored as well, and I really like the way it goes. And also in this issue we see this creature here, and this is apparently a new nova. So there's a couple of novas, of course. There's a couple of other characters which I'll speak to you about later. But she is now a new herald of Galactus, because Silver Surfer has lost his powers.
I had no idea there was more than one Nova. I mean, there's more than one character named Nova already, and now there's more than one Herald Nova.
Yeah. So she was actually a girlfriend, because basically what happened. It's actually also quite great with Marvel is that, I was reading those Fantastic Four issues, and in Fantastic Four issue, she was there in one of the issues when she became one. So 244 is her first kind of becoming Herald of Galactus, and how she does. And in here, she's in trouble in the Silver Surfer story. So really, really good. There's a Fantastic Four in here, as you can see. I didn't know that. I mean, I knew that She-Hulk was present in here, but there's lots of other histories spamming from this. And I absolutely, as I say, was entertained to the point where, of course, I went into my Marvel Unlimited, and I will talk about that later. Anyway, so this was the start of my good reading, I guess, for Marvel side, to be honest. Really entertaining. So I'll talk to you about this later in the other issues I was reading and information I gathered.
Okay. Silver Surfer is one of my favorite characters in the Marvel universe, which doesn't say too much actually, but but I really do like the Silver Surfer, because it's such an out there creation. This autistic guy mumbling wild stuff. Obviously relates to me right now, and just there in outer space and One other thing that does this comic book is actually really good introduction. So if you're not sure about the Silver Surfer at all, the back matter will tell you most of the things, almost. It actually it spams in 3 issues, that back matter, and there's lots of information that just spews out at you, and you're like, oh, what's going on? And then you kind of really don't have to read those first volumes, because apparently the first volume completely bombed. That's why you only continue to 18 issues. The Stan, the man, I'll talk about him a little bit because of his Silver Surfer and his tantrums about his character. So yeah, it's fantastic, honestly. it's really, because of history part, I guess I got really a lot of this comic book, but also what it happened afterwards while I was reading in other titles, which is really cool, I guess. And I kind of, in a way, understand why people like continuity as well in Marvel or in DC, let's say, because it just gives you, like you just go through and you can go through a lot of characters and you start to get to know them a bit better just because of one character you just suddenly found out. So yeah, very good, very good.
There's probably a tipping point where you've read enough where the continuity starts adding instead of subtracting to your experience.
Yeah, it's like Fantastic Four was mentioned, and I just recently read it, and I was like, oh my god, I know this character. How bizarre! So it's almost the like first feeling like this, where I read something and it's already reading something new to me, but it already has been happening. So really good.
But then I think there's a later step where there's just, you've had too much continuity and it doesn't, and after a while you get kind of picky and say, well, that doesn't fit into the continuity as well as I think it should. And anyway, I think there's multiple stages to this continuity.
Yeah, of course.
But I have experienced the love of Marvel for their continuity at certain times.
Yeah, even in this, the creators, the writer, he was a big fan. He's basically, in the back matter, he's saying that he was reading the original run. He was really into it. And then suddenly he's actually doing his own run. So it was really entertaining to actually find out about this.
Who's the writer this time around? Is it Engelhart?
Engelhart.
Okay.
I think it is Engelhart. Yes. Yeah. Steve Engelhart. Yeah.
Right.
And Michael Rogers is in penciler. And Joseph Rubenstein is an inker for this run.
That's a good team.
Yeah. So yeah,
now I need to search those out. I've always meant to read the Engelhart Silver Surfer and keep forgetting about it. Now you reminded me.
Because the thing is, the guy who's the writer is a fan of him as well. So it actually helps in actually understanding, like how many things he's mentioning, and he's actually telling us like there's this the storyline which starts in this number 1 issue, but it continues further in other ones which I will talk about. But he says like, don't worry about continuity, like you were just mentioning about, we will fix it for you kind of thing. In the way he's already warning people, don't worry about it, you just come back, we'll help you with everything else. So that was fantastic to actually even, read that they already had that kind of problems or issues before. So really good.
And that's the really cool writer that was doing those Doctor Stranges that you were enjoying.
Yes.
Where he was going on a strange trip through death and all.
Yes, that's the thing. So I guess I have, when I was collecting, I remember getting this whole, like the run I have, it was of course in that beloved Comic Mart. And the guy was selling the whole thing, and I was just like, and he's like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Yep." I wasn't even sure what I'm doing, but everything. And I like when it comes to space and galaxies, I love it because of my Star Trek love so much of it. And then having Silver Surfer just wandering around in space, what don't you like, kind of thing. So yeah, I was picking it up one by one. It's like about 50 issues I have, I think, of the first run. I don't know if it's continuous. I don't think it's continuous because you have that famous issue, I think issue 44, where you see Thanos. I don't know what the issue is all about. I forgot about what the significance of it, but I know I don't have it because of Thanos and the movies in Marvel Universe.
The collectability ruined it for you.
Yeah, and then mention about the movie called Black Widow in later stages, hopefully. Anyway.
Dang.
Okay, let's continue with the man for the mainstream comics today.
Yeah.
Mr. Krakk.
Mr. Krakk's the mainstream man? No.
Today he said
today,
that he has
this week
mainstream comics.
Yeah.
It was all mainstream for the most part. So there's a couple of guys locally who have started doing some videos and posting on YouTube, and they mentioned a couple of books that just completely passed me by. So I'm really glad that I still watch the videos. So I picked this up kind of on their suggestion, Mamo from Boombox.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
No, that's not okay. So
there we go.
Yeah.
I really, this was a really, really great issue. This it kind of starts with this girl looking for the witch of the village and finding her because her mom has been is kind of frozen in a sleep state, not dead, but she's unresponsive. And the witch that she finds, I believe it was her mother that used to be the witch of the town, and she doesn't want to be. So she comes to kind of help. And near the end, not really a spoiler because they just very, very briefly touch on it. It's leading to a much bigger story. She finds that there's a spirit up in the attic of the house that's causing the issues. And it's gorgeous, gorgeous art throughout the whole thing.
That's nice.
One of the things that stood out to me, stuff like this, the kind of curve, I don't recall seeing many landscapes like that in comics that I've read. And it starts to mirror itself in a couple of other panels. You see it kind of mirrored here with the cat, the movement of the cat through the panels and things. Really, really good. And it feels like this is a book that I'll definitely read with my daughter because it's not scary whatsoever. Even when the reveal of this spirit up in the attic, it's done in not a really intense kind of way. So I don't know much about this series. I'm guessing that it's a mini series. I don't know how many issues, but man, am I ever glad that I decided to give it a shot. The art is really, really gorgeous. And it's not a name that I know. Sass Millage. It's not a name that I'm familiar with. So there's the back cover of it. But highly recommended. If you see this around, give it a shot because this was a lot of fun. And I think that's one of the things that kind of happened this week in my reading with some of the stuff that may be a little more lighter, especially in terms of what I've been reading lately. It's just been really enjoyable to sit back with these stories and just work your way through them. So really, yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I guess I didn't realize that it was going to be, it's a nice, it kind of borders that kid-friendly to stuff that's still appealing for myself too, to read through it. But I'm actually really excited to read this with Lillian. I think she'll really get a kick out of it. So yeah, that was my start off this week.
So
Nice.
so the Boombox is for younger audience, I presume, yes?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like thinking, because I saw the bag says Boombox. I was like, okay, so you said boom, but then I was like, okay, because I'm not honestly haven't even delved into many Boom or Boombox comic books as well. So it's interesting to see. But the art looks fantastic. It really like flows really nicely as well in the fantasy
Really
realm.
beautiful. And like I said, a lot of those kind of the curves and a lot of the panels with the landscape and stuff, it really, really looks amazing. Yeah. Very surprised.
Yeah, like in some of books for children that are illustrated with these beautiful drawings that you later on never read again because you think it's childish, but actually it's very nice stuff. We are organizing and rearranging all the old books from our children, and they're too old and don't have this interest anymore. Oh,
right.
Sorry,
Yeah, when my daughter was little, I would go to the library and like pick up 40 different picture books at a time, because the library would let me do that, and just discover all these incredible, cool artists. And now I have no excuse to look at all that great artwork in all those great children's picture books.
Right.
I guess I should just go to the library and get them for myself.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe you should. Maybe you should discover something, and we all gonna start buying, and the Boombox gonna be exploding, and it's like, what the hell had just happened? And then we'll be all because of us. It's a pity my library is actually going worse to worse. They only concentrate now on DC or Marvel because I guess people not reading or kids not reading them. So before it used to be fantastic, but now it seems to be.
That's bad.
It's actually quite a shame, because before I used to be picking up quite a many titles and stuff like that, but it doesn't seem like now anymore. When I looked through the catalog they have, it's kind of like poor, to be honest. I wouldn't even recommend half of the things they recommend for people to read, so it's kind of sad. Sandman is plastered though, but you know why? Because it's an English writer and it's very famous in here, so Sandman is everywhere. Like, I want Sandman as well. Oh, I will tell you another story this week what happened to me. Anyway.
10 minutes.
What?
Okay.
Sorry?
What's happened?
Sorry, is this an author or 10?
Which one?
She was talking about Neil Gaiman and Sandman.
Yeah, I'm Neil Gaiman.
Leave a comment?
So okay.
Yeah, sorry. Maybe I'm blabbing around too much. Anyway.
Yeah, my connection here fucked up a bit.
It's not football reducing your IQ as you.
No. Hopefully not. Too many headers. Sleepyhead, sleepy reader.
Other sleepy reader's turn?
Yes.
The other
one.
Well, I didn't know if I was going to talk about this because I haven't quite finished it. But now that we're talking Silver Surfer,
look at us.
This is a really odd specimen. When did this come out? I'm sometime in the 70s. You know, when Jack Kirby returned for the last time to Marvel, one of the things they by then they were publishing, Bring On the Bad Guys and Son of Origins of Marvel Comics, and so the same publisher published this graphic novel by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, 1978. So it must have been one of the last things Jack Kirby did before he retired from comic books or mainstream comics. And so it's kind of like the one that Stan Lee later did with Mobius. It's not set in the Marvel universe. The only characters that are familiar are Galactus and the Silver Surfer. And as usual, it retells, or just like with the Mobius one, it retells the story of the Silver Surfer coming to Earth and bringing on Galactus. There's a famous, or either he's recreating a famous picture where Silver Surfer is born out of Galactus's fist.
Yeah.
And so they kind of just on his own, he just sees, there's lots of life here, and it's a young, intelligent civilization, so you should not destroy it. and he has a big fight with Galactus, and Galactus gets really mad at him, says, "I will too eat Earth," and then for some reason he doesn't eat Earth, and he banishes. That's the weird thing. He's not defeated, but he banishes Silver Surfer to the Earth as he did in the original Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And Silver Surfer eventually disguises himself as a human. Here he is, this guy with the blue hair. People always have blue hair in old comics.
That's lovely.
But he, and then he figures out, what humans need with his supervision, a pen and a wallet and a wristwatch and a cigarette lighter. And then he gets mugged.
Jesus.
And meanwhile, Galactus is fuming and mulling over this. How can his herald leave him? And he summons up out of his mind a lackey that a part of his mind he normally represses, who he calls the Master of Guile. And, and so he has long conversations with the Master of Guile. It would have been cool if they had Galactus summon up a whole pantheon of different parts of his mind to talk with him, but Guile seems to be the only one. But after talking with Guile, he creates this woman to tempt the Silver Surfer back into his service. So suddenly it's like the Silver Surfer is Adam, who has disobeyed God, and so God creates Eve to pull him back in, and they go and do all these cosmic things. She has power over the mind, and apparently are having a little nookie.
Wow,
is my interpretation. And then this is them resting in a cosmic bed after.
Sorry, it's just me. Okay.
What was that? Are you still able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. That looks incredible, Damien. I can hear you. I can hear you.
It's lots of incredible art by Jack Kirby and Joe Sinnott, who should not be left out, but is not credited on the cover or anything, or inside either. But so she is. Then it's revealed she's there to bring him back to Galactus, and it's like, damn you, woman. And then she tries to convince him of all the horrors of humanity, and he wants to try to convince her of the good points of humanity. And meanwhile, Galactus is mulling things over and saying how he's above emotion and all that, but he's really pissed off that the Silver Surfer left him, and also worried that maybe the Silver Surfer is more noble than he is, and that upsets him. And then they go and visit this. I guess the surfers took her to visit these humans to sort of show her that humanity's not all bad. But she plays tricks on his mind so that he feels like, to increase his feeling of confinement inside a house and how he can't bear to be in there. And then she reveals to the humans the horrors and their insignificance, their small place in the universe. And it is mentioned in several places here that Galactus is not God, and that he too is a small being in the bigness of the universe, which I thought was interesting.
Wow.
And so we're getting close to as far as I've gotten. He gets really pissed at the woman for upsetting the humans, and they fly off to the barrier, and he tries to go through the barrier, and I guess she succeeds in going through the barrier. So she returns to Galactus and reveals to Galactus that although she's only existed for a few hours, and her only reason for existence is to bring him back to Galactus, she now loves the Silver Surfer. And I think that's where Galactus gets extra upset, that the Silver Surfer is more noble than he is. And that's as far as I've gotten. So I think I've got about 20 or 30 more pages to go. So on one hand, I think it has two problems. One problem is it's stretched out, and I don't think these guys are used to doing a 120-page comic book story at this point in 1978 all at once without the chapter breaks or anything. And the other problem is that there's not enough other like when you're in the continuity of the Marvel universe, you have other characters for the Silver Surfer and Galactus to bounce off of, and they have to just sort of hastily throw these other ones in. This woman who loves him is just kind of very one-dimensional, and then any humans he meets it's very brief and one-dimensional. Actually, there's a third problem, and that's Stan Lee's dialogue, because it goes with the first problem, the 120 pages. Stan Lee feels like he has to fill every panel with tons of dialogue, even though there's not enough to. It's like you're reading the same stuff over and over again. The characters keep saying the same things.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have loved to have seen what this would have been like if Jack Kirby scripted it, because I'm pretty sure that Jack Kirby came up with everything here but the dialogue. Because I saw some sample pages in the Jack Kirby collector that showed typed out descriptions of what was going on in every single panel, typed out by Jack Kirby for Stan Lee. So back in the old days, when they worked the Marvel method, Jack Kirby would write little scribbles in the margins. But this time he typed out whole typewritten pages for Jack Kirby, so he would know like a paragraph for each panel of what was going on. So it really made me think that Stan Lee just sort of came in after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I see Jared really saying that he read that Kirby and Lee were working at cross purposes on this book. So he's never read what those purposes were. But that makes a lot of sense, in the sense that it seems like, in terms of the dialogue, it just seems to be going nowhere. And so I have a feeling that Jack Kirby had a cosmic Adam and Eve story in mind here or something. I don't know. I'd love to get a hold of the entire typescript of what Kirby wrote down for Lee to see what he intended. That would be amazing if that exists. So anyway, if you're a Jack Kirby fan, or you have to have everything with the Silver Surfer in it, I would say get this, because it's got great Jack Kirby art, but it's kind of a frustrating read just because it's missing what it should have, being part of the Marvel universe for one thing, but also maybe just a more streamlined approach to everything. It's so hammering things on the nose over and over again.
Did you just pick that up, Damien, or is that something you've had for a while?
No. Do you remember about a year ago or more, a friend of mine sent me a box?
I do remember, yeah.
And then my mom sent me a box that she found in the attic. This came from one of those. I'm not sure which. And
amazing.
To my ever love and shame, on the back page is the initials and address of my friend who loaned me this in 1978. I didn't even remember I'd borrowed this from him, and I never returned it.
Whoa!
So for 1 year, my parents sent me to this Catholic boarding school, all boys Catholic boarding school, which I hated. And the one guy I liked at that school liked comic books too.
Wow.
And he lived in New York City, and I visited New York City, and we went to the comic book store together. The only comic book store I knew existed at that time. It was called Super Snipe. It was in Manhattan. And then we hung out at my grandmother's apartment and swapped comics. And I think we were supposed to give them back to each other when we got back to boarding school, but I never went back.
I see.
His name, I think, was Tom Hayes or Tim Hayes. So Tom or Tim, if you're listening now, send me an email at sleepyreader at sleepyreader666@gmail.com, and I'll return this book with some bonus materials.
Like Scott Connor says, overdue fees are going to hurt you.
But I'm so mad at people who don't return books to me, and now I realize I did a really bad one there on this one.
Yeah.
It looks absolutely incredible. That's going on the list to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, visually,
I doubt it's very easy to find, though.
Yeah, I don't think it is, though. I think it's quite old.
Every few pages, he just kind of pulls out the stops and does something, some new amazing thing. But then you can see him kind of, in a normal Jack Kirby comic, the amazing things would come at a faster pace because there's only 22 pages. But here he spreads them out a bit more. and and Stan Lee just fills them with endless dialogue.
I see. Cool.
Yeah, beautiful. Endless dialogue is somehow a good cue into this book here. The biggest tome that I've read last week.
Wow.
So you don't have to worry that much more of this stuff will follow. Die Wege des Herrn, The Ways of the Lord. And this is was a 4-album series spanning over more than 4 centuries, from the end of the Vikings and the battle at Stamford Bridge, when they were defeated by the English king of that time, until the Columbus, the discovery of America. You can see it here.
Oh.
So, yeah. And it's totally up my wheelhouse, stuff that has this kind of pretty poignant and exact background. So I don't know if the art really is up my wheelhouse, but more about that a bit later. The MacGuffin in this story here is a map that was allegedly drawn by Leif Erikson, the Viking who discovered, very probably, America for the first time for real. And this map is lost and found again and serves as a red thread throughout the story. It is overall the story of the Order of the Templars, the Knights Templars, as well, from their beginnings and the Crusades, and lots of very interesting scenes here. So yeah, it's a good kind of history lesson with lots of fun story-wise, and like these old novels with that I read as a child, with some heroes in the Egyptian age, with the ancient Greek, or something like that, just to get a feel for these old times here. And when a comic can achieve this, I really love it. The problem is actually a bit the art, because it's, I don't know if you can see it, it's perfect in a way that it's too perfect. And of course, highly photoreferential, and not to say tracing art. And so some panels really look a bit stiff, even though I really can. It's incredible work that that have to be done there. Just imagine to draw and paint all the stuff here. And in the back matter, you really get the feeling that there was a lot of pencil work involved, which is pretty mind-boggling, because my bet was that it was more Photoshop and photos and rearranging them and shuffling them around until you have somehow the story. But you, of course, you have to tell the story here. And a lot of historic stuff like Bernhard from Clairvaux and the different popes, and many characters show up and leave the scenery. So there are no classic comic characters that you can really relate to, which is probably a good thing, because the character work is not the great stuff. The fantastic stuff, in my opinion, is how a comic can achieve that, tell 400 years of European history in a pretty satisfying way, so that you have a cross section through these times. And yeah, so yeah, And it's a fantastic cover, and the presentation I really love. This was maybe the first incentive because the publisher Splitter had produced these books here to celebrate their 10th anniversary, and it was a certain amount of books and titles that they presented in this way. But this was, by the way, drawn by one Jaime Calderon, a Spanish guy, and written by Fabrice David and Grégory Lassablière. Don't know, sounds French. But it came out first in Spain, if I'm not mistaken. 4 albums.
It does sound like it would be a really cool read, and it does sound like that kind of art just somehow stiffens up the story or something.
Yeah, a bit, yeah. But
sound like that kind of...
it's a bit. It stiffens up a bit, but not that big. I mean, to be honest with you, it wouldn't be the kind of art that or the comic that I read because of the art. It was clearly the story, of course. Yeah.
And is it all wrapped up, or are there more volumes?
Yeah. 4 albums, and
4 albums were in that one volume. Okay.
Yeah, 4 albums in that volume, and it wraps up. Even though, like it sometimes is with these kind of stories, in the last album, they had the pressure to wrap it up, so the speech bubbles got a bit like this, filled up with words up to the brim, and that was a bit annoying. And the way the story is told is there are many flaws to discover overall in the book if you're nitpicky. But I mean, otherwise it's a splendid book, and I was really entertained. So yeah,
I feel like Splitter is a name that I've seen a lot in your videos too.
Yeah,
you have a lot of stuff from Splitter. Yeah,
it's the. They did in the same series here. There was this collection of Möbius, the stuff from heavy metal, the same publication, same presentation, and it's of course the book from Möbius was sold out in some months, I guess, or this here is still available. Each of these books have a print run of 1,111 books. So that's the numbers of copies you have to deal with here in Germany. And they will have, it's not said that they really sell each and every book, but maybe. Yeah, Splitter is great. Splitter is, they're really nerds that produce the stuff. And the best thing is that they always keep their stuff in print, so it's never sold out. It's never
So wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, there's no stress on you when you read a book. You don't have to buy the second volume and just to have it because otherwise maybe it's off the shelves. No, you can be pretty sure that it will be in 2 or 3 years still around, with the exception of these books here. They are sold out when they're sold out. So, yeah, that was the biggest reading experience for me this week. Rasa, how is the game going, by the way?
Still 1-0 is to England, so Italy hasn't had a chance to score. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, your prediction is not really working out at the moment.
I would have lost lots of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Italy is struggling, so it's kind of weird to see. Anyway, I'm not watching, but every single time I look, I get distracted.
Don't tell me you're not watching. Of course you're watching. Okay, you're on your turn.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it's my turn again. Okay. Yeah. So because of this Silver Surfer, and I was reading, the next one I had in because there's a story where Galactus is taking Silver Surfer's powers. No, not Galactus, but Dr. Doom. Sorry, this is the comic book I'm basically talking about. I had this issue in my collection. I was like, okay, I haven't read it, so I wanted to read it and what's going to happen. It didn't really explain how Dr. Doom had these powers of Silver Surfer. But there is a couple of great panels in here. But of course, my love for the Daredevil is as well very strong. So that was really entertaining to read in generally. So this was Stan Lee's and Gene Colan's work in here. And this is really great panel where Doom is punching the Daredevil, the shit out of Daredevil. And it's funny enough in here, the Doom didn't know that Daredevil is blind. So this whole issue where they're both fighting each other for basically almost survival, or how Doom is always present, like, you too puny for me because I'll be defeating you. I'm better than you. I have this clever plan. And he does. What he does basically after this huge fight, Doom puts Daredevil in his limousine with some weird dude next to that, or like two henchmen basically next to Daredevil on each side to make sure he's kept still. But of course, Daredevil is not Daredevil not to be able to leap from the car in one panel and in the car still fighting and having this amazing, honestly, Gene Colan's art is absolutely superb, and watching it incredibly fast-paced scenes happening in here. So there's this huge fight and they stumble through pavements. The coppers, as you can see, really baffled how this came to be. It's really good title to read in generally. So the mentioning of this power. So after captivity and him placing Daredevil in his lair or in his embassy in America, I presume, he showing and telling the story how he had this power, or he's actually it's such a weird panel, but you see there you go, you see him Doom on the surfboard, which is absolutely bizarre but beautiful to look at. And so it kind of gives us an explanation. And then you see this, of course. So Colan's Galactus is as superb as Jack Kirby's as well, in my opinion. And then, of course, Doom being Doom, he's like, I can defeat you as well, and stuff like that. So yeah, a further entertaining read. It actually really did help me to basically go further and understanding, like the Surfer, that one book, and basically rapidly you exploring your own collection, see what you have if you do, or explore Marvel Universe digital app. But I'm glad I had that in the paper. Thanks to comickkrakk, by the way. This is comickkrakk generously obliging to give me this issue. And then sadly enough, because of this beautiful scheme and Daredevil, there's a next issue which I don't have, Living Prison, which is still enthralled, probably fight scenes and escape scenes. Because one thing is funny, both of them are encased in this plexiglass, and they keep on saying, how amazing to have this plexiglass. How did he do this? And then basically what happened, Doom changed the bodies. So Doom is really easy to do that for him. He has this, he's so clever. He done it to Fantastic Four, Mr. Richards, and he also now he's been doing that to Daredevil, which I wasn't aware of that. So there you go. So if you didn't know, watch out if you're next to Doom. You never know, he's going to change the bodies with you if he likes it too much. So anyway,
does that mean Daredevil now has the powers of the Silver Surfer in Doom's body?
Well, you presume. I don't know the story, end of story, so you tell me. I haven't read it. I mean, I could read it.
I read those a long time ago. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I'm going to read it in Marvel Limited. Maybe next week I'll inform you guys. But this is the beauty of this. As I say, you can discover the things in one comic book. They've mentioned these things about the Doom and surfer powers. Doom? What? You need those? Really? Knowing Doom is being so bloody powerful. But yeah, it's absolutely entertaining, of course, and seeing Doom, and he's, of course, Stan Lee's script is fantastic, where he's like, oh, you puny Daredevil, I know exactly, and it's like, did you realize you didn't realize I was blind? And it's like, don't worry about it. I have your body. It's that good enough for me. I'll deal with it by myself. I know how to, because I'm so fucking clever. You know, like he has IQ off the charts. So even the blindness won't scare Doom, it seems to be. So yeah, fantastic. Really good read as well. Another Marvel tick for me kind of thing.
It's great that Terrence gave you that, because I remember those 2 issues as being amongst my favorite of the early Daredevils when I read a bunch of them.
The Gene Colan is superb. I'm honestly seeing the Galactus of Gene Colan, so it's just makes you more excited, I guess, kind of thing, to even discover more about. I already kind of not knowing that much about Galactus, I'm already kind of excited. Thankfully, I have this ginormous book, which I showed you once in the video. I don't know which one I did an exercise and showed that massive book I have, where it is basically Silver Surfer's first appearances and Galactus, the major story. I basically read through a couple of pages, like too much exercise. Go back to where you were before. Maybe I should do in Marvel Unlimited. It's less exercise to work, maybe, or maybe if I feel like really strong for one day, I'll go.
Or put it on the dining room table.
Yeah, but next to my son,
you
that
have
book,
to wait till your son's asleep or something.
Yeah, basically midnight read with a giant tome on the dining table, probably, because my son sees the book now. He's actually got hold of more than my comic books, and I almost had a heart attack, but he was kind of gentle-ish in a way. So I was like, oh my God.
Well, that's hopeful.
Yeah.
On that giant Fantastic Four book, he could use that as a surfboard.
Oh yeah. He's actually, to be honest, we're definitely thinking to get him a skateboard, because he's trying to skate everything on the wheels now, my son.
Wow.
So anything on the wheels, he jumps on top of it, and he does like that, kind of like, he stumbles, of course, but it's like 5 seconds, and he's like almost like surfing on those things. So he's crazy 3-year-old. Whew, hard work. Yeah.
Always
Gene Colan,
the thing I'm always excited about with
Mm-hmm.
with Doom and like Galactus and all these kind of characters is I'm really hopeful for the day that they start making appearances in the movies, just because of the way the CG is these days. I would love to see a fantastic like Galactus story and Silver Surfer story in the Marvel movies. I think would be incredible to see what they can do with that.
Don't worry. I think there's lots of people hoping. I don't know what they will be getting it first. Are we going to have the villains out of fruition? Because the Loki stuff, there's lots of temptations for people telling what it is in there. And then there's also mention all the time about Galactus. So I guess somebody going to have to come in fruition. If Kevin Feige has anything to say, he might just pass that out quickly, and everybody's like, those first appearances of Galactus is just skyrocketed. It's too craziness. And one mention from him, from Kevin Feige, about X-Men, just sold a 9.6 lab of X-Men 1 for like $800,000, something ridiculous like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
One mention, like it's the same old like, we have a Tesla guy, what's his name, whatever his name is. He mentioned something, things drops down. Kevin Feige mentions comics like skyrockets. It's crazy. It's absolutely
that is crazy.
bonkers, man. 800,000 is like, who bloody thought of X-Men number 1? No, you know how many people having X-Men number 1 doing this? CGC. Where are you? Come on, do it. Express delivery. I'll pay whatever you want. Because that's why I think I would do the same if I would be having the X-Men number 1, but shame on me, I don't. Anyway, I'm excited.
Do you want to continue, Mr. Krakk?
Sure. So let's talk this.
I read it too.
Easily my favorite miniseries of the year so far. I thought this was a really, the whole way. I mean, there was definitely a sense for me personally where I thought the story might go, and there was hints of things throughout. I can honestly say that I was completely satisfied with this final issue. I feel like they went, or sorry, not they, he, Gilliam March went to such a good spot. Like I don't know, man. Like it's a really hard one to talk about. I don't want to go into spoilers and things necessarily, but I thought it was just handled so incredibly. And I think going to the what I was expecting would be the natural conclusion, but then also going beyond that with the story, I thought was just, I don't know, man. I absolutely love this book. I love everything about this book. I love the way it feels when I'm holding it and reading it. I love the colors. I love the art. I love the flow of the story. I love the characters. I feel like it's just one of those books that has just worked for me from issue 1 and kept me really interested. It's also one of those books where I think, because I don't read a ton of stuff on a monthly basis, because I've kind of drifted away from that. Although lately I feel like I'm getting a little more into that. I feel like this is one of those books that I think it would work fantastic as a collection. Don't get me wrong, but I think part of the enjoyment for me was this, was this journey throughout the book and not really knowing and getting these little snippets through each of the issues and then having to wait. That anticipation definitely played a part in the enjoyment for me. But honestly, the art is just incredible. I love every single page and every single panel in this series. It's one that's going to be a cherished book in my collection for sure. We were talking about it in the stream on Friday in the chat. I think it was Damien, you were mentioning that when they're doing a collection, it's not going to be an oversized. And I really feel that that's completely missing the mark. I think that they need to get their shit together and do something a little more oversized so we can appreciate that art even more. But I think that this was really
complaint is the smallness of the font, because it seems it screams out for oversize.
Right. Yeah.
I think it was on Jared's stream. Someone said that it was listed as a regular size upcoming trade. Hopefully there'll still be an oversize.
Let's hope, like even in that European graphic novel size, but just his use of the pages and his use of the paneling. And it was just such a satisfying story. You know, we're not talking like he's broken new ground in storytelling and really, I'm just showing the first half of the book repeatedly because I don't want to show any part of the last half of the book. But it's just so well done. This is just someone who, I don't know, man, just it appears that he's really enjoyed doing a book and really knows the story that he wanted to tell and just done it really effectively. You know, it's just stunning artwork. And I love all this, where's my finger? All this stuff here that was showing an appearance in some of the other issues.
Yeah, I loved how that tied back to that so well.
Totally. Yeah, it was a nice little touch.
That brought together the entire series for me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That pattern was a little confusing to me at the beginning of the book. And now it makes so much sense.
I just assumed it was a design thing, which, you know, the only, and again, this is a minor criticism. The only minor criticism that I would have is this kind of info dump here, the first couple of pages, where it feels like we're getting hit with a lot of information about Carmen and kind of her place within this bureaucracy of death. But again, that's a minor complaint because I still thought it was an enjoyable way to tell part of the story.
I felt that had to be done. Much. If I were his editor, I would say slice some of that in earlier into the story. Right. You know, spread it out a little so the info dump isn't all in one part of the story. But that's a very minor, like you say, a very minor thing. Like you, I really enjoyed it. I love even the final issue cover has all these faint drawings of our naked woman. You know, it's imperceptible on this camera, and I didn't even notice it when I first got it at the store. But there's just so much pleasure taken in the details and just getting this comic just right. Maybe that's what a lot of European comics are like, but on the American market, it just really stands out.
Right.
And so I think they're really leaving money on the table if they don't do an oversized thing, because I bet almost everyone who picked up the individual issues is going to buy more copies of an oversized hardback.
So
and it also feels like the color palette too. The color palette in this one, it feels like it's not colors that you often see in comics, or maybe it's just the use of them together is maybe what stands out to me as well.
I think a little of both.
Yeah.
A little of both. It's especially like a lot of use of pink and a lot of use of this kind of turquoisey blue. This very light turquoise blue. If those colors are in other comics, they're just in very small amounts. So it just felt very bold and unique.
I see she still just needs the jacket, and then the rest of it is all like free and flowing. Eh?
Yeah, I forget how she was able to get a jacket. I'm gonna definitely have to go back and reread the whole thing.
It was the guy who gets hit in the earlier issue. I can't remember if it was issue
when
4
he
or
dies,
3.
she can take his jacket.
He gave her his jacket. Yeah.
He's like, you look a little bit cold, just a little bit breezy everywhere, but not don't worry, no pants, just jacket, like it's fine.
Basically, he was trying to be nice and kind of help her out because he didn't realize what was going on. He didn't know he was. Again, the whole kind of the way that he approaches this death and this transition, I think is really interesting as well, because they're sort of floating, and you get some of these characters that don't realize what's going on, and they're still holding on to their reality and their kind of them being alive. They don't quite register what's happening now. Yeah, so satisfying, really, really satisfying read.
So the end, is it a win-win-win, or is it like?
It's a win-win-win. Yeah, it's a win-win-win.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's dead, yes? She's proper dead. And she didn't woke up like in Marvel.
I can't tell you.
You gotta read it. You gotta read it.
I wanted you to spoil. It's like, would be like, how dare you, everybody on the
I'll send you a message later if you want me to spoil it.
Elements of how they work it out that I did not see coming, but were very nice. I do kind of wonder, like, do I just take this as entertainment, or do I feel like Gilliam Marsh is trying to give me some kind of philosophy on redemption?
Oh.
And I don't know if he's one of those people who takes reincarnation seriously, or if he just thinks it's an interesting story engine to have reincarnation be kind of an issue going on here.
So
I loved it as a story, but I think if I were to take it as a deep philosophical tract, I don't know if I'd go too far with it.
So just remind me, so this has already been published before, and they just do it now in English, yes? Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And Mind the Comics is mentioning it in the chat, but he also mentioned it on Twitter too, that it could potentially be very pretentious, but he felt the way that it was handled wasn't at all, and hipsterish, I think is maybe what he said on Twitter. But just the fact that of how it was handled was very nice. It didn't go that far to really push it. I just felt like it was just the story just naturally unfolded for us. It didn't feel forced,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could turn some people off if they're kind of tired of the angst of youth and things like that, because there's quite a bit of that there. And I'm someone who sometimes that angst of youth can just push me out of a story as I'm getting too old. But on this one, I was able to get on inside her psychology and be okay with it for the most part.
Right.
I'll be very childish, and I think the males will definitely like this one just because of the flying boobies everywhere. So
endless nudity.
Hey man, it didn't hurt.
Unless
but
they
honestly,
prefer
beyond that, it was just really, really
good. I must say, her figure is fantastic. Oh, every female figures he drew whatever I've seen. To be honest, I just only read one issue, so but. It's definitely lots of entertaining in that sense. I wonder, do you think you would have a flying man like that dressed in the comic book anytime soon? Do you think that's what happened?
It's a weird thing, right? Like they just don't seem to go that way. I remember one of my favorite films Irreversible, I think, is an incredible film. It's not one that I would watch many, many times, but there's some male nudity in there, and it just really, it has a different impact, right? So it's very strange to me that that's always been kind of the double standard, right? Like the female figure and stuff being used the way that it is. But for some reason, the male figure, especially if you're going to use any sort of like erect penis or something, it really just feels like there's something else that comes with that for people. And I don't quite know. I mean, I guess we could sit and philosophize about it and get all cosmic about it. But I mean, it's really one of those things that I don't know, man. Like if this was a male character, I would be fine with it. It would still be if the story was like this, I would still be really good with it. You know, I think it's a quality story.
I got to think Gilliam March enjoyed drawing this more because it was a female nude figure.
Right.
Like to draw like 60 pages out of the total that have a nude figure in it. I think a lot of male artists would prefer that figure to be female. And I don't know female artists what they would prefer to do. Maybe they just don't care. But so I think there is an element of that male gaze. The only positive is it's not an extreme ridiculous female form. But
I think
if you do want a book with a lot of male nudity in it, try to find Richard Corbin's Den. That guy's out there and swinging the whole book.
Oh really? Now you got me interested, like piqued my interest, like straight up. Bam, 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 bam. What did you say?
with an absolute hog flapping around in the breeze.
No, I do think that in one scene where he obviously has an erection that they do draw a large log happening to block the view of it. So he doesn't go quite as far as showing erections.
I'll put that list together there, Chaos on Comics. He's saying in the chat, a top 10 list of erect penises in comics.
Well, you send me a private message.
That's going to be all underground comics.
Next panellogy.
Yeah, and also the Batwang, DC will never do that anymore. There was a hiccup.
Batwang.
Batwang was so tame. It was just... Yeah.
But it was okay. I mean, come on, man. It's just like a shadow, for God's sake. Not even a full-blown jewels, like they say. Jewels, hanging ones. And it's nothing. Nothing there.
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
It just showed us that Batman was a human being, pretty much.
Yeah, but with DC and Batman and sex and all that stuff, it's already has been brought up quite rapidly in the Twitter with the Harlequin TV series. All that stuff. It's just like so sensitive about that kind of stuff. I mean, I understand it because, kids are very well having them as a something to look at for like at the end of the day, like role models and something like that. But these day and age, really, kids really worried about that? I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the violence is much more a concern than the Batwang.
Yeah.
Jared says it in the comments too. March was clearly showing off how well he can draw the figure, and absolutely, again, I think that's also what got to the enjoyment of it. You can tell that he's just enjoying drawing every single page there because he's just clearly just having a lot of fun with the page layouts and the panels and stuff.
Any artist into figure drawing is going to be both drooling and jealous as hell over in this
he's ladies or people or in generally everything, whatever. That guy has everything, to be honest. I mean, at the end of the day, it's honest to look at. And it's like you guys mentioning about this not being oversized is actually really sad, but probably expense-wise, it's quite of another thing they have to think of it, because I've heard many times saying hardbacks to produce is very expensive endeavor. So it's kind of sad in that sense.
Well, and I wonder how well this comic sold for them too is the other thing. I mean, I don't follow that kind of stuff, but I wonder how well it sold for Image.
We just need anybody knows like celebrity, the minute that would be shown in a celebrity's picture, I bet that book will be selling like crazy, because these days it seems to be what you need. So promote somebody with that anyway.
I don't know how Jared Osborne can't buy the male gaze, because I've experienced the male gaze my entire life from inside my head. I don't know how you can deny it. It's just a fact of male biology.
Okay, continuing with the male gaze.
Oh, good. Oh, I guess it's my turn? Or
yes, that's what I wanted to say.
Let's see. Okay, well, a different kind of male gaze. I read this comic that I'd picked up probably a year or two ago at Floating World called
Retrofit. Nice.
Bodysuit, which is an issue of Retrofit. So I don't know any. It says Retrofit 61. I don't know anything about Retrofit. I just grabbed it, on a spur of the moment because the art looked super cool. And it turns out to be, at least this issue, is a one-man show. Eric Kostiuk-Williams, and he's a young gay man, and he's using this comic to, in a variety of ways, kind of express some of his experiences and feelings. And oddly, he kind of pictures himself like a cheese, like a piece of cheese wrapped in that red wax.
Or like Crazy Cow or something like that.
I don't know which kinds of cheese are wrapped in red wax, but I see them pretty often. So it's a lot of it is autobiography and about his like high school days of befriending people online, but not being able to tell him that he was gay. So it's kind of not that great of a read. It's really great art, but it's just sort of him info dumping his biographical moments or thoughts transposed over these really cool drawings, which I guess kind of express his feelings too. So I really enjoyed the art and just sort of pushed my way through the writing. This thing, which I don't know what it's about, was really cool. This short piece here that just has a few words and a few pictures. So I kind of view him as an artist I hope continues as he matures and gets older, because he has these fantastic visuals and he has this drive to kind of express what it's like growing up and gay. And but I guess maybe this was the kind of book where the actual material was a little too young for me in a sense, or it wasn't acted out enough. And I was thinking, like, I was watching Earl's very recent video on autobiographical comics, and my favorites are still the early Harvey Pekar, where he just does a comic strip that's just about a brief conversation he had at work or some other little thing. And I like these little snippets of real life rather than, here's the grand story of how I grew up and came to accept myself. Even though I understand that's an important story, it just feels samey, whereas little details of life feel specific and more interesting to me. So anyway, if you're interested, this is fantastic art, and definitely I'm glad I got it. And the final story is interesting because this came out in 2016, and it is about brain fart. It's about Britney Spears, and who's been kept alive for 100 years by people who are exploiting her to keep her making money and entertainment. And she's kind of a cyborg creature whose mind they keep erasing and rebooting so that she doesn't know how abused she's been. And then someone from some feminist cult comes and unlocks her brain. And apparently somehow she has superpowers, and they fly away from Vegas together. And she goes off to their underground matriarchal commune. And they want her to help them spread their matriarchal message through her platform as a superstar. But at the end, she says, no, I don't want to. I've been used by people for their needs, and I just want to go out and explore my own life. And it just ends like that. So I think it kind of, again, expresses this kind of young man feeling of getting your own identity, but he's getting that through his thoughts about Britney Spears at the same time. And pretty astute of him 5 years ago to sort of be on to what was happening to Britney Spears already. And maybe a lot of people didn't know, because it's just
hashtag free Britney. Isn't that documentary?
Yeah. Right. Was that documentary? Yeah, that came out just recently. So probably it was something bubbling under for quite a long while, because he's very aware of Britney's mistreatment. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. And so is Retrofit an ongoing comic? Is it still going?
Retrofit is a company. I've got that issue as well too. I think I ordered it right from Retrofit, so I didn't realize they were numbering their comics by Retrofit being the title, but that's the company.
61st retrofit comic that the whole company's published.
That's got to be. Yeah.
Because it's just probably a one shot. And I need to look up and see if this artist has continued, and maybe see what some other retrofit comics are like. It's on very nice paper and everything. And for, when I go to Floating World, which is the store that carries all the weird stuff that Terrence and Earl like, a lot of the prices on them are very high, and to pick up ones I'm not familiar with and pay $20 for a comic is a little hard for me to do. So this one was $6, so it made it easier to risk and pick it up, and I'm glad I did. And I should have read it a lot sooner, but it took me a while.
Just as for comic stripped, there is some people who's actually reading this, so I am the one. I have a couple of them, or like 3 of them, isn't it? There's 3 of them came out now. Very expensive, but if you're a fan of turtles, I guess you would commit to that, which is I am doing that. And then Campbell's one is not for everybody. They're saying it's a bit cheesy in that sense because a little bit too girly and stuff like that. But I think, not everybody's going to be happy with everything else what's going on, but I think you need to diversify what you write. And there was a huge complaint, and there was this letters page in one of the last issues they published, and they managed to, I don't really see the bad press in recent comic books, especially letters for people, but they wanted just to primarily give an example how people or fans can be rude to creative teams, and then completely diss them out about the creators and who is drawing them and stuff like that. And I think, we all unhappy sometimes. Most of the time I can blab out saying I hate this TV show or that sort of things coming out, but it's just my opinion to talk to friends about it. But just do that all to creators who is actually hardworking is kind of shame, to be honest, because that run is been running for that long. There's a lot of major sales. There's always continues having the fandom. So I think I'm still a fan. I'm not maybe amazed by the storyline, but I'm still entertained, and that's why I'm continuing reading it. So just as sad, some things like that can happen. But this run in particular is very heavy, really heavy. It's not something. It's not one that's called last running. It's quite sad to see where Turtles would have ended if it would have happened. But yeah, it's entertaining read for sure. So yeah.
Okay.
Very
I have to take a 5 or 10 minute break, but I will be back. I just have to say goodbye to some people.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
Just on something Damien was mentioning there, I think that's the unfortunate part about some of the small companies, like with the price tag. I think that's something that is difficult. I mean, they're printing such small amounts of books. It's really unfortunate though, because I think that stops a lot of people from, well, I'm not going to pay $20 or $15 or $12 for something that I have no idea who this person is. It's I don't know how to fix that other than trying to print huge print runs, but then you're sitting on a stockpile of books that nobody's buying, right? So yeah. Sorry, Damien, to keep you there.
If you could find those people in now first, maybe, which you can buy for a relatively good price, and find the artists you like, and then you're willing to pay more for them or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
Okay.
Hi, Gore.
Oh yeah.
Hello, Mr. Vidal.
Hello. So, let's talk about erections a bit more. No.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Go on.
No. Underground comics. One of my favorite creators of underground comics is Paul Kirchner and his series Dope Rider. And maybe you have seen it before. These were published originally in black and white and were pretty surreal. And maybe I should show the old ones. But the thing is here, Mr. Kirchner came back to his invention of this character here, Dope Rider, for High Times magazine in 2015. So in the last 5 years, he produced monthly one page and could put lots of effort in this one page here.
Oh, look at that. That's exactly what I like to see.
Yeah, it's really art-wise really nice stuff. I have to say that his old Dope Rider stuff is unparalleled and is still my favorite stuff, especially when I compare it to this stuff here. But it's just fun. One-page stories that have all this visual humor to them. Maybe that's the problem, that he tries to be funny instead of only surreal. When you try to make a gag on one page and it's not always funny, and it's maybe easier even to be surreal and to be just confusing in a good way on these pages. What he did with his old Dope Rider stuff here, but yeah, and this is the thing that I borrowed for the thumbnail for today's chat here. His little armadillo. Mr. Dope Rider is obviously just a skeleton who is a stoner as well, and the book celebrates all these stoner cliches and makes fun of it as well. And especially now in these times when it's legal to smoke a joint, it just doesn't have this aura of doing something forbidden or so. All this aura is lost in I mean, I'm just speak as an outsider. My drug is alcohol, so but I like the Freak Brothers and all that stuff, even though it is not my culture in a way. But so
same for me.
Yeah. But this is visual dope for me, if you will, and so getting high on the supply here. So this is a book produced, A Fistful of Delirium. It has a bit this fun retro charm of all these neo krautrock albums that came out. So they can't do they top each other with more colors and more cliches and more strange Easter eggs to aliens and other things. So it was produced by Tanibi Edition, a French publisher, but the book is in English, and €21, not so cheap, but I think totally worth it.
It's definitely very, very colorful and entertaining to look at, for sure.
Yeah, it's what they did, this flip book thing here on
each
these pages here.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Oh, so it's like a animation.
Yeah,
oh,
it's
wow.
just like this thumb movie. Yeah.
Look at that pose. That's hilarious. Oh, that's really cool.
Cool
very
in a way,
cool.
but in a way it fills the pages.
Wasted a lot of pages.
A bit, yeah. But if you do a monthly one-pager, that it's 12 times 5, 60, 61 pages in this book here just to fill the book. That's
a lot of time.
Yeah. So.
Oh. Wow. I need to make sure I remember this because I'm gonna have a look.
Yeah, Dope Rider.
Yeah.
My recommendation would be, if you haven't read or haven't seen the old Dope Rider stuff, then look for these, and maybe you can continue, and I look for the book with it, because actually it is in German, but it's almost silent. So yeah. Okay, continue, and I will show the old stuff.
Yeah, okay, so it's my turn, is it?
Yep.
Okay. So let's continue talking Silver Surfer. Anyway, so this issue we have more of understanding who our Silver Surfer is. And it says Return of Zenla. So apparently he's from Zenla, if you guys didn't know. And Shalabal is this lady here. Apparently he sacrificed himself to become Herald of Galactus and save his planet, Zenla. So that's how he became Silver Surfer. That's his bargain with Galactus was. And Shalabal is his beloved who he had to leave behind. So this one is a bit more like a background of Silver Surfer when he goes back home, which I really like these pages. And then, of course, it's a little bit of a, as well, kind of a heartbreaking love story. One thing I really enjoy seeing Silver Surfer is riding the sun or one of the moons, and it's absolutely fantastic. Imagine if you could do that, people would be going crazy for it. Anyway, so this is a little bit of understanding where his land is, but apparently his land had to be still kind of resurfaced back to its own glory because of the Battle with Galactus, which I have not seen or read about it. But it's this nice, beautiful embrace of those meeting them again and seeing how, my God, you survived. And it's also like those captions where we say, if you missed this incredible first issue, it may not be too late to grab yourself a lasting present if you in a hurry. So they keep on advertising in captions or giving you information about what you can read before. So another thing what it tells you in this series, or basically while you're reading it, basically tells you there's volume 2, but it's only one issue, and it's created by John Byrne. I mean, he's on art. I think Stanley is in writing, but don't quote me on that because I'm not really remembering that at the moment. Which I was surprised because they have him just one issue. I guess they will keep on trying to get the surfer into the mags, as they call them in here. And basically, once again, the style of the comic book itself was fantastic. We found out about Surfer and his powers, what happened, and how still unhappy about it. But what was really entertaining for me, and if people like to know more about the scrolls appears in here in this issue. And one thing happening for scrolls in this particular story, which I wasn't aware or what's happening prior, they will tell you here in captions once again, is that they lost their power of shape-shifting, which is interesting. And I was thinking straight away, oh my God, is that going to be shown maybe in movies or not? Because scrolls maybe will be reappearing again. And because of the Kree Empire, and we know Captain Marvel is in there and stuff like that. So unfortunately, because of Skrulls appears on the land, on the planet, is they have this because they lost their shape-shifting abilities. They're trying to scramble and look for like allies, because Kree is gonna come after them, because this is ongoing, like a war between two nations or species, let's say this way. So they come to this Zenla, and then his Shalabal, the names, Shalabal is in charge now. She's Empress. So apparently what happened in that miniseries, or that one issue with John Byrne, his beloved got Silver Surfer bestowed her with some powers. And then because of those powers, it was able to help the planet, and also people start following her as a savior, and basically made her an empress. So due to that kind of her basically powers, and then she's an empress and she's in charge of everybody. She is not going to be with him anymore. They can't be lovers because she has a responsibility and she doesn't have time, basically. So basically what she said, she just gave her hand to Silver Surfer, said, sorry, work is more important than love for me at this time. Anyway, so what in here, the back matter is by editor Michael Higgins, basically. I don't think I mentioned that in the issue I was talking prior. But according to Michael Higgins, editor, but anyway, whoever is writing this, there's lots of information how they told us. So there's lots of issues coming out, like they were mentioning Tales of Suspense, Tales of Astonishment, Doctor Strange getting Shield Shield stories. So Silver Surfer had to become something, and they were trying to push the Silver Surfer. Especially Stan Lee was pushing it because he created in Fantastic Four. And then they were starting with Sal Buscema, we created as first volume. But what they apparently was, because there's so many magazines in that time, apparently it was an issue as well. Like we complain now these days that we have so many comic books to choose from, but it seems to be Marvel was kind of like trying to juggle things as well, introduce many characters, and there's lots of things happening because Marvel Universe just became more popular and everything. Marvel just became the almost number one selling company of the comic books. They introduced this Silver Surfer first volume with 40 pages for 25 cents. But apparently in that era when it came out, 70-something, 25 cents was dear money to spend, especially if it seems to be the character not everybody would be liking, I presume, or, like, I guess you have to choose. You like your Surfer or your Iron Man, or like there's a lot of them, Submariner characters as well. So then because of that, basically Silver Surfer title bombed the first volume because of the cost and stuff like that. So it's a very interesting information. And then when I was reading this back matter, they were saying there's a story which says the next story, like they always tell you, is the Elders. And as I said to you prior to that, Elders were, there's 12 of them apparently. So there's champion, like there is Collector, there is a Runner, and I don't know all of them because I have not yet discovered them. But anyway, because of that, West Coast Avengers apparently was titled in that time when we were producing this comic book, and then annual number 2, and East Coast Avengers annual number 16, which I got very confused by, will be continuation story of the Elders, and then what I have read from issue 1. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to continue. So now I had my Marvel Unlimited, and that's where I read next. But anyway, I'll talk maybe if I had a chance about those, because there's more information. They were talking about Silver Surfer and how Stan Lee was main protagonist, like main bad, like not bad guy, but a main, like not letting anybody else to write Silver Surfer after the bombing of the first volume. So anyway, I'm done, I guess, talking about. And by the way, a football update. 1-1. Italy just scored.
Okay, let's see how this would. This is the Paul Kirchner, the old. It's in German, but it's not really silent. But lots of. And his art for one, it was the time when he originally. I'll put myself a bit bigger. So it was when he did it the first time, and now it feels a bit like he's always riffing on the same note, even though I love his stuff and it's fantastic. But yeah, the old black and white comics here are really, could show you each page, and I think these were reprinted in different formats and different books, and have to be available in somewhere for cheaper than this other book here. There's Tanibi Edition they did a book earlier with a cross-section of Paul Kirchner's works, awaiting the collapse. And this is, male gaze.
Did he ever work with Wally Wood?
No, it looks a bit like Bollywood.
So many people worked in his studio at times. I thought maybe that's
maybe, but I don't think so, actually. But now you say it, it looks really Bollywoodish to me, and here some of the stuff is colored as well. So okay, just a light bit of a postscriptum to that other book. So then it's crack time again.
Crack time.
Crack time.
Time for crack.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Two Moons number 5.
Oh yeah, the good you mentioning.
Yeah.
I liked it. It's not that I was disappointed with the way the story went, because it was to be expected. I don't think there was any idea in my head, especially reading it, that it would go any other way from what we get in this final issue as far as, the kind of big battle. I was a little confused by the end, to be honest. It feels like, and I don't remember if we came to an agreement with on this on Twitter when we spoke about it. Was this the last issue? Because it sure doesn't read like the last issue. It feels like the end of the first story arc, and then we're going to go and follow him on as he continues. Where's that one page? Yeah, as he continues on his quest, whatever that's going to be. There was some sort of note with it at the end there, like especially with this white Irish woman that was shocked by his response to it, and her kind of complete about face with how she felt about him. Not that I don't understand where that would come from. It just felt a little unusual to me. It felt like the first 4 issues had a certain kind of tone as a bus passes by. Sorry about that. And then this final issue, I don't know, there was something that just kind of jumped it out of place for me. I don't quite know. It's not like I hated this issue. I did enjoy the issue, but there was just something about it that didn't seem to fit with the rest of the stories, and I can't quite pinpoint what that was for me. But I know that it was partially to do with that relationship he had with this Irish woman. There was something there that didn't sit right. But that said, though, I'm still really glad I picked this up. I love the art in this. I think it's a really interesting premise, and I feel like there's a lot of story elements and territory here that can be tapped into, and a lot of interesting things that could potentially come out of this. I'm curious to see what comes next, if there's anything that comes next, a second story arc, or I don't know what, but it felt kind of incomplete, I guess is the best way to say it.
Totally agree.
I don't know if I have tons to say about it other than that, to be honest.
It felt like maybe there were a few pages missing, that might have clarified. Sorry about the echo, but might have clarified his decision to sort of continue his journey on his own for a while, but maybe come back to that woman or something. I don't know.
Right.
I had the same feeling as well, and I didn't understand when I heard like it might be the last issue, and I was like, surely not. This didn't feel like the end of the storyline. But I was looking at, I think they said that this is the first. Well, they're gonna release a trade, so I guess it is the last issue for the trade. Hopefully, because I hope they're gonna produce something more. Because, like you say, Sleepy Reader, it does miss something. So a couple of pages to explain to us a little bit more. Because yes, we did have the end. To be honest, the hanging of the...
I thought that was fun. I liked that part of it. I really enjoyed that part of it.
I'm not going to show the page because it's a bit of a spoiler who gets hanged, but we got the hanging. So in a way, it kind of should tie up, because he's kind of like, maybe a little bit felt like an instigator, because he was everywhere, like following Two Moons in the whole storyline. But still kind of like, It just, the win, the way he won, what he used to win, it's like, huh? And it's like, it didn't feel as much of paid attention to this issue in particular, which should be the most primal one, because at the end of the day, it's good from the first 4, but the fifth one is like you can start to nitpick, like we can kind of tend to do so. But one thing for sure, for me, the winner in this title is the artist, because having him here has just really kept me going as well. I guess it's just another example why I tend to go for the artist first and the writers later, because that knowing this issue once again, the writing not up to what we maybe expected it, but it just seems to be like we all having the same feeling. So surely something is not right in the writing. So, which is sad.
I think part of also for that ending, like one of the things that stood out was the idea that now everybody else could see that these people were monsters, and how that ties in with him as an indigenous person, and then him kind of expressing his anger towards all of this stuff. It felt a little, I don't know, it felt like there was something a little maybe more lofty that they were trying to get across that I just didn't pick up on, and also I guess the other thing, even just sitting here listening to you talk about it and just thinking about it again, I guess I was never really sure of why iron was the thing that was able to affect these creatures. I guess maybe that was lost on me. I just accepted it going forward, that this was going to be the thing that now makes them kind of, that's the only thing that can kill them. Maybe it was laid out really simply early on, and it just completely passed me by.
I missed that too.
There was a little bit of
some fairy, like fairies can be hurt by iron or something. In the versions of mythology where fairies are these scary beings,
right,
and steal your babies and stuff.
I highly recommend, by the way, Irvin Mubarakian. Sorry, I don't know how to
pick up the question here. Would you, on the bottom line, still recommend it, or?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
I don't know if I would.
Yeah, that it's a little frustrating at the end, but not too frustrating.
Yeah. I don't know if I would recommend it. I really don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that if you can find it for cheap, pick it up. But I don't know if I'd say go out of your way to pick it up. Like, again, the first 4 issues were enjoyable. It's just there's something that just didn't hit the mark for me with the way that it wrapped up, which I guess is a classic thing that we end up talking about time and time again. It's not easy by any stretch. But I don't know if I would say go out and hunt it down. If you find it cheap, absolutely pick it up.
If this is not the last issue and there's more, I think it would redeem it more and make me recommend it more strongly.
Yeah.
My little bit of inside info is that Bill Crabtree told me about coloring a comic that for some reason Image didn't release and sat on for a really long time. And then when this came out, he told me this was that comic, which means the creators worked on it a long time ago. So if it sells well enough, they would have to gather the creators back. That artists might be busy, particularly the artist is the one who takes the most time on things. Might depend on what else he's got on his plate.
I don't know. It's like, I just, for the art itself, I think it's really something different what you see on the shelves in the comic book sense. So I think in that sense, this really deserves maybe attention on that. But of course, if you don't want to spare the money, you shouldn't do that. Especially, as I say, like I recommend it to see, I don't know how it would feel when you read all of them together, and maybe we would pick up on the whole story in generally, because I think as a trade, I think it would read stupendously well. So in that sense, maybe you should pick up in trade, because trade's usually quite cheap, especially in Image comic books. So if you want to spare on that, but I think, it's kind of sad because seeing this kind of art in the comic books, which you don't tend to see these days anymore, it's kind of sad if people would pass out, but on the comic book, but generally it's really well worth your attention in that kind of sense of. But it all depends, I guess, if they want to release issue 6, because that would be really, really good for me too, because I would go straight away. I mean, I want to know exactly what's happening with him, because the first ones with that mentality of him and what he was seeing and like judging and not understanding himself, that was really entertaining to do. So
And if you're a fan
I
of
think that's the thing
Westerns,
that I would be on to as well too. Like if they did a second arc, I would absolutely be on board. Like I would absolutely keep picking up. There wouldn't be a doubt in my mind if they did like here's another 5 issues and we're going to kind of keep unfolding the story. I'd totally be on board to see where it goes.
Okay.
Yeah, for September, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
and I would recommend it to anyone who likes horror mixed with kind of a historical setting, because it's kind of unusual in current comics to get that. So I thought that aspect of it made it extra strong.
Yeah.
Okay. Then it's your turn.
Okay.
Mr. Sleep.
So here was kind of an odd one for me. I don't spend a lot of time distinguishing Image from Skybound.
Okay.
But Skybound is Robert Kirkman's personal label within Image, and they're celebrating 10 years. And so they put out this thing called, what is it called? Because I got the Ultra Mega variant cover. I think it's called Skybound X, actually. And I don't know if it's continuing or this is a one-shot, but it's a $6 comic with a thicker comic with different short stories from different series that are from the Skybound imprint. Some I didn't even ever consider the fact that Ultra Mega is from Skybound. And I think Skybound means that Robert Kirkman owns the copyright and not the artist, but and it's interesting in the table of contents, it says, so for the first story is called Rick Grimes 2000, and it says Robert Kirkman, creator, writer, Ryan Ottley, penciler. And then James Herron, Ultra Mega, creator, artist, writer. So people are singled out as creators. Like in another one, the writer of Manifest Destiny is called the creator, not the artist. So that kind of disturbed me a little bit. But what I really want to talk about, and I'm kind of going to spoil it, is there's this series, I guess, called Rick Grimes 2000, and they say it's to be continued. I thought maybe it was just a one-shot joke. I have only read the first trade's worth of The Walking Dead, and I saw the first season of the show. But I do know the story that part of how Kirkman kind of tricked or convinced Image to take on The Walking Dead is he said by issue 5 flying saucers were going to show up. So in this story, Rick Grimes wakes up. He's on an alien spaceship. In the very beginning, he wakes up in a hospital.
Yeah.
He wakes up on an alien spaceship, looks around, finds this superhero suit and puts it on. And then the spaceship drops him into this violent apocalyptic fight between superpowered humans and other people. It's kind of confusing who's fighting what. And he meets some characters that he already knows, some of whom are dead but were brought back to life. And I guess Rick Grimes died at some point near the end of Walking Dead. So all these characters are brought to life as superheroes. And some of them they've all been given superpowers by the aliens, and some are fighting against the aliens, and some are fighting with the aliens. So I just spoiled the entire premise there. And there's all this kind of violent fighting. And, some of the characters are ones I don't know that well because I didn't read deeply into The Walking Dead. It kind of makes me think somehow of Kill Raven and War of the Worlds from Marvel Comics in the 70s, although, of course, much bloodier. And it says to be continued. So I don't know if it's a joke, a jape, or if Kirkman is seriously starting now this alternate storyline with Rick Grimes and friends with superpowers fighting aliens who are invading Earth.
Oh.
It just seems nutty. And the art's by that awesome Ryan Ottley, who did a lot of, or most of,
Invincible.
I'm trying to block my wife's. She didn't mean to be on air. So anyway, it's just weird. It kind of blew my mind. I don't know what to think about that. Has anyone heard about that? Was this something they said they were going to do?
There was some comment.
They're saying the
And is there a Walking Dead video game? Because if I understand correctly, there's a character, Clementine, from the Walking Dead video game that they're going to start a comic book about, and it's drawn by Tilly Walden. Drawn and written by Tilly Walden.
I don't know about.
Is kind of an indie. Isn't she kind of an indie artsy fartsy, as Earl would say, person? So I'm kind of shocked to see her jumping in. Maybe she's just doing one issue, jumping in on an ongoing story that's a branch off of a video game of The Walking Dead. It looked beautiful. I actually haven't ever read any Tilly Walden, but this makes me, so maybe that's a plus for her to reach a new audience. It makes me want to seek out some other books drawn by her. But it's about this girl who's been hiding out with this boy from the zombies, but now she's deserting the boy or leaving the boy. I don't know if there's other people to help take care of him. He's a young boy and off to have her own adventures. And that's how the story ends. So I'm not giving really much away. I guess looks like, is she missing a foot or something? Anyway, I didn't even know there was a Walking Dead video game and that created its own characters.
I don't know about that particular character, but there was a video game for sure. And it's strange how The Walking Dead was considered to be an independent title way back then, and now it's considered to be mainstream, so that we wonder that one Tilly Walden contributes to that series.
Well, because we kind of think at this point it's all about the money, right? It became so big. And a TV show, like when he started it, he was just another scrappy guy doing a weird indie comic, and now it's so established. And to have video games, and then characters spin out of video games. So they I don't know how I've never seen a Tilly Walden book. I've heard her name probably on channels like Earl's, but definitely, so that perhaps served its purpose. And I enjoyed the ultra mega little strip in here, but it's only about 6 pages long, and I don't think it's necessary for a fan of the ultra mega comic, so it probably wasn't worth spending $6 just to get that, which is why I got it. But just the weirdness of all this made it kind of fun for me. But I think, maybe Robert Kirkman is gonna dip back into that a well of The Walking Dead, because his other books maybe aren't as big, and he probably is used to being a big shot and having big comics or making a lot of money. Although I think he has enough now that he doesn't need more.
Really, I think so. He can do whatever he wants.
Right.
So much money that he can't spend it.
And I don't know for hardcore Walking Dead fans if that's going to ruin their memories of The Walking Dead to have all the characters reoccur in some over-the-top, silly superhero story.
I mean, the TV series almost destroyed the comic, I found. Not the last, but the season before was really atrocious. And
but isn't he reprinting Walking Dead now as well? Like from issue number 1, and does it monthly or something, or bi-monthly, whatever it is? I mean, how come? Do you have not enough money, or people are like literally asking him, "Oh, I want more Walking Dead because I cannot hold of the issue number 1," but because like the series is still continuing, and you have like apparently Walking Dead having that 2 other characters who's going to continue Walking Dead going, so it's not even finished. So what is it like? Is he gonna be that guy who is like, oh, I have this Walking Dead and is only be known for that because everything is just Walking Dead and whatever offshoots is Walking Dead, which is, like I have all the he has created a lot of things. He tried to create a lot of things. You sleepyreader reading his I forgot the name now already, the title, because I haven't.
Oblivion.
Oblivion, the Oblivion song or something like that.
Yeah, Oblivion song, right.
Yeah, so he has that coming out. So he's trying, but it doesn't seem like he also had that series, the horror series as well. He was coming out with
Outcast.
that. Outcast, yeah, exactly. So maybe the guy doesn't like this sells me, so why the hell I should try? Let's just produce more stuff and expand this universe to no end.
The other series he does are good. I mean, if he has a lot of money and he just should be happy with making good comics and not, but there's probably about an ego there. You don't want to stop earning big bucks. All your friends in Hollywood will stop inviting.
One of the shops in town here that I go to that's right downtown, every single week, what they do is they lay out the new comics on kind of their back issue bins, and there's always an absolute shit ton of Walking Dead stuff with variant covers. And I'm pretty sure this Rick Grimes thing that you're talking about, I'm pretty sure I saw that as a single issue as well too.
Oh, really?
Potentially I don't pay them any attention whatsoever when I look. I just know that every time I go there, there's an absolute boatload of Walking Dead titles like every single week still. So
Ryan Ottley art was really good, I have to say, and that makes it very tempting. There must have been a really good colorist on it too. It looked beautiful. Dave McCaig on colors. I think he's the one who's recoloring The Walking Dead, right?
Another superpower Otley has is he draws quite quickly as well, and he can keep up as well. He's been producing the Invincible regularly. I mean, had a couple of breaks with different artists coming out with the issues, but the minute he came on to that Invincible, you knew Invincible as Ryan Otley's work, because he just continued churning them out every month, it seems to be, and people weren't complaining when they coming out, as far as I remember, because I didn't collect them in single issues for sure, because I just read them in digital format, unfortunately. But Ryan Otley is definitely the person to look out, because he's getting better and better, even though he was already good in Invincible. Right. So
that fits what I saw there.
Yeah. So very entertaining.
Okay. Now it's my turn, I guess. I have a really have to learn this here. So,
work.
I got a post from Finland from one Antaro Visual. He sent this book here for me, interesting format, landscape formatted comic book. You can buy this let's see. Antaro Visual, bigcartel.com, I guess, is here in the middle, if you're interested. So, and it's interesting, really. He has big balls, this, I assume, young guy. He contains 20 of the finest hand-drawn comic strips, each one produced with the utmost care and attention to guarantee an exquisite reading experience. Leafing through these pages, you will find hints of smooth angst, rich taste of the absurd, the light touches of mania, and the sombre notes of depression. These distinct aspects converge to bring forth a multifaceted yet harmonious whole for you to enjoy. So, big ego. And reminds me a bit of Adrian Tomine, however, first book that was really made in a similar manner. To be honest, the first pages are really just talking heads, but he plays with this format. And this guy here, this iterative gentleman of the title, changes form, and his necktie changes forms, and there's a little story unfolding, and in the middle, maybe here, this is pretty clever. Just as an example.
That's cool. I mean, expressions are spot on, to be honest.
Yeah,
and it's difficult to get them all lined up really nicely as well.
And the pattern in the back and all the play here, and then
whoosh. Oh, it's getting dark, eh?
Yeah. There's much more to it than first meets the eye. So
yeah. Okay.
And here we have. So he's up to something, of course, in the cave and next to Napoleon and so on. And So really was a fine read, and thank you, Antaro Visual. And I wanted to show this at one good occasion, and I guess this was a good occasion.
I think that was Salvador Dali, isn't it? Before the Nick Cave, as far as I remember, this mustache is a famous artist.
Salvador Dali, yeah.
Yeah. Because of mustache, going up.
Ever said Napoleon? Okay, Napoleon was somewhere else. Yeah, Dali, of course. Yeah.
Just to.
By the way, Dali was Dali. Dali. Mr. Kirchner did something with Dali as well.
It's got lots of inspiration from everybody.
Yeah.
Dali.
Salvador Dali. Here.
Oh yeah, that's mustache. Yeah, that's a trademark.
The mustache gives him away always.
Yeah, it's a good way of spotting the person. I guess it's another thing you should think of when you do the brand. They say make sure it's memorable, so everybody will remember what it looked like, so you don't forget. So he has that mustache. That's a brand, basically. I mean, he's very famous already. I think he doesn't need the brand anyway. But what I'm trying to say is that mustache. It just tells even the kids.
It was
know.
a brand. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like kids, like in schools, like I know this mustache. Where did I see it? Mommy, what is this kind of thing? You can hear. So.
By the way, Wikipedia says Kirchner was an assistant to Wally Wood for a few years.
Oh, there you go.
Oh. Okay.
We know. We produce you information, people. You should just listen.
Well, it's easy to look things up on Wikipedia.
Yeah, well, let's hope Wikipedia is all right. Yes, when he's telling the truth.
True. I think I now that I confirmed that, I think I heard a podcast interview with him where he talked about his whole career and mentioned that. I think it was my friend Scott Edelman's podcast, Eating the Fantastic, for anyone who wants to search it out.
This is my turn, I guess.
Okay, then over to Rasa.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, as I mentioned, let's hope you're gonna work. Oh shit! How do you work this thing? Oh my god! I'm not prepared. I didn't know how to. You cannot.
Technology.
Yeah, heat is. Come on, man! I was not prepared. Sorry, I'm scrolling pages. I'm page scrolling. Okay, this is
wow.
How it
That's
works.
a lot of pages.
You give everything.
Yeah, this is the story. So I said to you previous on the issue Silver Surfer, this is the continuation of this West Coast Avengers in Giant Size #2. So apparently the story was expanded to the point of even Champions or whatever happened after Champions, I guess. And the story starts really interestingly. It goes into a superheroes playing baseball. So Death in Texas. I don't know why Death in Texas, to be honest. I don't recall. I guess, it's in Houston. That's why it's Death in Texas. So in Houston's Astrodome, superheroes are playing baseball. And there's a couple of conversations. What's intriguing? I heard that there was West Coast Avengers. I never read anything about West Coast Avengers. I didn't know why they were called West Coast Avengers, but seems to be this annual is doing quite a good job because apparently they are from west side of America. That's why we call West Coast Avengers, and East Coast Avengers is from east side of America. Anyway. But so there's lots of characters which I'm kind of familiar with because of like a couple of things I already know. So there's a Black Knight from Defenders, She-Hulk, Tigress, Mockingbird, which has a really bizarre costume. She's there in the glove. And then Captain America, of course. You have Hank Pym, who doesn't have powers in here, but he has another one. So anyway, we're having this baseball game. I don't know how you way say it. And then Silver Surfer appears, and that's why I'm here for him, because that series was taking me to this to read. in continuation of the story. So it seems to be Silver Surfer likes to crash into things and starts to telling him, wait, don't do anything. It's the same happened in actually original Doctor Strange story. Instead of he's the one who told that I forgot the Doctor Strange, that there's things happening and there's this Thanos are coming. I don't know what. So anyway. So he crashes in and he starts telling the story that he had this fight with his champion. And that champion told them a little other story. And apparently the other Avengers are, all Avengers are in trouble. And because of the Elders. And the Elders, which I mentioned to you guys before, there's many of them. There's like quite a... I didn't know that Ego, the Living Planet, it's an Elder as well. The Challenger is the member as well. Architect, astronomer, caregiver, collector, contemplator, explorer, father time, gardener. Jesus, there's so many of them anyway. So a lot of exploration into the universe. So apparently there's this scheme by a couple of Elders, because whatever happened in apparently Contest of Champion event series, which has happened prior to this issue, the couple of Elders have decided to give this amazing scheme where they're gonna kill, and apparently all the East Coast Avengers gets killed and murdered. And in order to save them, the West Coast Avengers decides or gets told this little tale by the Collector that this is like scheme of his one of the supposed, they call themselves brothers, but they're not really brothers. That this is scheme in order to him come back to life. He's gonna kill them, and in order to gain the power from death, or death gives him his powers back, because he can't understand how the Elder can die, because they are the ones who are living the billion years and stuff like that. So really crazy stuff happening here. So another thing to note, I didn't know that Moon Knight was, well, not really a Avenger, but he was about to be Avenger, and I'm not really familiar with Moon Knight whatsoever, so this is quite brand new for me. So this guy tells him this story, and it says, in order for you to save your friends, you have to die, so please drink this. So all of them has discussion. They still decides, okay, we have to save them because now we are superheroes, and they all drink and they die in order to save their own friends. And the only person who doesn't die is this lady, who I'm not really familiar at all, and I'm getting kind of like, like when you have so much information from each character, like kind of difficult to get hold of the names afterwards and who this person is. Anyway, and then the scheme is to go into this. So this story is really well told. I mean, the way this, like those era comic books and superheroes is like, okay, I'm gonna die for you, and then we're gonna find a scheme how we live. And apparently the whole spoiler alert thing, his scheme was to basically manage to make those our heroes kind of like silly in order to gain his own power. So he managed, by them being convinced, all our superheroes got convinced to die, he's able to control death, and that's the main story of this. And then it was one thing. Another entertaining is that they were, of course, fighting between each other. So you have Iron Man and Captain Marvel fighting each other because in order to survive, they have to convince. They can't talk. The only way they can convince each other is by fighting or by winning. And in order to win, you have to defeat your own. In order to save them, you have to defeat them, kind of thing. So this is the grand scheme of the Elder. It was. One thing what's very confusing was that they said East Coast Avengers Annual, which I've read as well, and the continuation, but it's actually not East Coast. It doesn't call that way. But if you're not aware of that, I was very confused. It's actually giant size Avengers 16, which I wasn't aware, and I can't find now. It's not opening for me. So, as I say, I went into this reading thing where this one title has me expanding my world of Marvel into a place where I wasn't even expecting to be at. So a lot of information, a lot of like consensus champions, like I wasn't aware of. Like I know I have that title, to be honest. I actually even have it in my collection, but I've not read it. And how these elders came into being, that how they live through the lives, and they really like supposed to be a higher ups of us, like mere humans. But it was interesting how just the mere thought of you saving each other, and then they don't really have a conversation with each other. They just start fighting. Oh, I believe in that guy who you don't know really, who convinced you somehow to have this tale of, in order to save, you have to fight each other. And this is how the champions became champions. So yeah, it was very entertaining, but it's like in a way silly how this kind of little thing we can convince them, and now when we meet each other in underworld of like whatever Death Part universe is, they just don't talk to each other. They just like, oh, in order to save you, I'm gonna fight you, and then you have this huge battle, which was almost the same as a continuation apparently to contest like champions. Contest of Champions is just another part of it. So I guess it's this way of telling Marvel how to, like we still continue the story. We haven't finished it yet. So in order for you to have the whole thing, you're supposed to read it those. So, but it's very entertaining, as I say. It made me go everywhere, like kind of thing, to discover my love for Marvel Unlimited once again, because I was like, oh, I don't want any more Marvel, but one comic book can do that to me, and I just go dwell into that world. So, yeah, I'm Lithuanian, by the way, for Girelli.
Yeah, sleepyreader. Okay. Yeah, then we go. Oops.
Okay. I think it was last week that Damien mentioned this. I don't remember if it was here or if it was on his channel, but I found myself a copy of this Barbaric #1. I think that the best place to start with this is that it's one of the few comics where I found myself laughing out loud at some of the absolute, for me, hilarious dialogue and kind of the premise. So I mean, this barbarian has this axe that is forcing him to do good, and the conversations that he has with this axe in order for him to kind of want to satiate his urge to just kill people and go on these slaughter fests. I found extremely, it worked incredibly well for me. I thought it was a really, really fun story. Even some of the side characters and things, as he's leaving, he's asking, is there going to be a problem with that? And the character's like, shit, man, we barely even get paid for this. You go for it. You get the hell out of here. Just all these little side comments and things as he's kind of trying to plead his case to the axe on why he should be allowed to kill some people. I really, really enjoyed this book. I'm very, very glad there was still an issue left, because Rasa was saying it, and I've heard here locally as well too, that it's one of those books that's not it's not easy to find anymore. So one of the shops in town, Galaxy Comics, arguably the biggest comic shop in Winnipeg, they get a lot of stuff in, and they had a few issues left. Man,
yeah, not all shops get
other than it was super fun. Sorry, say that again.
Not all shops get Vault comics yet, but they should start, because Vault is really coming, is the up and comer. I really love this issue too. It reminded me of Esteban Morato.
Yeah, that's right. You were saying that. I remember you saying that. Yes. I don't
know if other people see that, but that was my first thought.
I think this is a fantastic premise. I thoroughly enjoyed reading this. It's one of those that I can see myself going back and rereading a couple of times, especially as more issues come out. I'm on board for whatever kind of story they want to tell us, wherever this is going. I'm completely on board. This is just a lot of fun with some really funny dialogue, you know. And it's probably on comickkrakk, actually, Blue Brick. There you go, Scott. There's one for you.
It's probably the first comic with a axe as probably the best character.
Yeah. The axe is incredible.
And I actually
just
like
love
the
that he
woman
has
who
to
pulls
justify
the swords out of her tattoos too.
Yes, this character here too. Yeah, she's a really great addition. So there's the look at the next issue that's coming out. So I'm really glad. Sorry, Rasa, go ahead.
Is it a mini? Is it ongoing? Do you know? Are you guys aware?
I'm assuming it's a mini, but maybe Damien knows better than I do.
I don't think they said, so I don't know. I don't think it was listed as a shorter series.
Mm-hmm.
Vault is a very small company still, but they have a lot of, at least critically amongst people on YouTube, hits. So I just don't know how long they can guarantee a series.
This page is what kind of really sold me to it. So he's been enlisted to kill some of these prisoners, and this priest is kind of running down what each of their crimes were, and he consults with his axe, and basically says, you know, I can kill a couple of them, but not the last one. I can kill the first two, but not the thief. You know, because it's just not deemed worthy by his axe. That you know, whatever. So he stole something. That's not good enough for us to kill him over. So I thought it was great, and basically gives the thief a chance. Like, you know, you can join these two knuckleheads and die for sure, or this is your opportunity to get the hell out of there. So yeah, very, very enjoyable.
Oh, Lefty says 3 issues. I'm kind of bummed. I would hope it's at least 5 or 10.
Right.
But then if the reviews getting for, like, it's rare to see a new comic book #1 having reviews for 9.5, you know, like from the 10. It's actually quite interesting to see that it can review that much and then sells out and it gets to second printing. I think we're definitely going to have a thought about it if we want to continue or not.
Yeah.
But that's the problem these days with the new comic books. You know, like I asked my comic book guy a day later, he released comic books for people to buy, and says, I'm run out of it already. And he's like, what? Really? And he's like, I haven't ordered that many because Walt comic books, like you say, not very known for people. So he just ordered a couple, and I was like, and I was looking at eBay, and I don't want to talk about it. I'll be eBay, and it's like, it's the last place you want to go. But sometimes
it was the same here too. The other shops, they sold out immediately. It was within the day or the next day, everything was gone. You know, and again, I think that also might be due to the fact that they didn't order a lot of copies in general. But like I said, Galaxy, they ordered a stack of them because they just generally do with all of their titles, because they have like the biggest kind of customer base in the city. So,
lucky, very
highly
lucky.
recommended. Highly recommended.
Yeah.
Looking forward.
I totally agree. I'm looking forward to reading more of it. It's not literally a guilty pleasure, but it's kind of that guilty pleasure kind of comic, right? You're just there to have fun.
It's like 4 times the price now of the comic book, whatever you originally paid.
I'm rich.
And I think one of the things, just to kind of touch on that last comment there, Damien, I think one of the things is this, I think, hit some of the notes that I was hoping that Scumbag would have hit. Like, as far as not necessarily the things that they're talking about, but just like the tone. I think this kind of encompasses a lot of the fun that I thought Scumbag was going to be, which I haven't read in a number of issues. I haven't even picked up the last few issues. So this kind of hit those notes for me better than that other one.
And now that you mentioned that, suddenly Scumbag falls even lower for me when I see what someone could do with, you know, just that kind of approach.
Can you show us creative team once again? The title, who is creative team for the title? Because I'm not really. Moresi. Okay.
Michael Morisi, I've seen his name before, but none of the other people. So this artist, is it Gooden?
Gooden.
Definitely someone to look for.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And it could have been awful. I mean, a jokey Conan book that could come out terrible. So it's kind of a miracle that I put it on my pull list just because of my own fascination with that kind of book. But I was pretty nervous that it was going to be bad.
Do the whole comic books produce trades as well, or hard covers, or just trades?
I think just paperback trades so far that I've seen.
I see.
And their trades are also a little harder to find. But of course you can order them online or something, but I don't see them stocked heavily at shops yet. I'm assuming Vault is following right behind Boom, I think, is becoming one of the bigger mainstream indie comics.
That's very nice to hear and see.
Good. And you?
Speaking of mainstream comics, I read 2 more issues of The Phantom Stranger, 1970 issues.
Nice.
So when the mainstream was, when the non-mainstream was much harder to find, unless you smoked a lot of pot. This was number 8 was the next earliest issue I had. I think it was, number 4 that I talked about with you guys before, where this evil magic woman from Haiti showed up named Tala, and she shows up again here. But the main thrust is that there are these, they're drilling for oil in the Arctic, and they awaken these ancient giant ice creatures who are having none of this and want to stop any humans from doing anything if they can. And the Phantom Stranger gets involved, as always. I'm trying to think of how to explain this quickly because it's not that. But basically, the Phantom Stranger gets involved, and then Dr. 13, the guy who doesn't believe in magic, is out to just debunk it all the time. It's kind of a repetitive pattern between him and the Phantom Stranger. But Dr. 13 always seems to be wherever he needs to be to debunk the latest thing Phantom Stranger is doing. But ultimately, the ice giants are going to kill Dr. 13 and his wife. I don't know if we had a wife before. What was her name? Like Doris or something. And Tala shows up. And the Phantom Stranger punches an ice giant. I don't know what effect that does. It looks like he's punching his cave. I'm sorry that I'm just going blow by blow. I'm trying to think of a way to summarize all this. But there's a lot of, this is written by Denny O'Neil and drawn by Jim Aparo. And there's a lot of environmental stuff, which, seems even more to the point right now than it was then. But I guess people were pretty aware of these problems back then too. And so by telling the ice giants how awful the world is now, they decide to go back to sleep, but their culture demands a sacrifice. So they take Dr. 13's wife as a human sacrifice and drag her off into their underground ice kingdom with them. So it seems quite tragic, but then the Phantom Stranger throws dynamite down the hole of the ice giants' kingdom so that they will be sealed in. And then suddenly the wife of Dr. 13 shows up again, and it's revealed that Tala took her place and then magically escaped. So suddenly Tala's kind of a good guy in a way. So there's all kinds of interesting stuff here that doesn't really gel that well. But it all has this vibe of the 70s, of 1970, that, I was 8 or 9 years old at this time. But there's a certain way of thinking that I feel like doesn't exist anymore that existed then, that is somehow reflected in these kind of comic book stories. So I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but there's this kind of, there's all this upset about the environment, but there's also this kind of magical thinking about things in a way that doesn't seem to track now with my modern brain, but makes sense to my 1970s kid brain. So then this issue 19, is a return of the ice giants. What's it called? Return to the Tomb of the Ice Giants. And it's still drawn by Jim Aparo. Let me turn on more light here. Maybe now that I move locations, more light might help. And Jim Aparo's art on Phantom Stranger, to me, is amongst peak Jim Aparo art. I like it better than his later days on Batman and such. But it's written by Len Wein. And so once again, there's a evil oil company, and there's a geologist who works for them who wants them to stop. And there's a bunch of earthquakes on the ice, which doesn't quite make sense to me. But and so the geologist is getting into fights with the foreman of the oil project. And and the ice giants are showing up, and they're cutting pipelines with their giant swords. And there's a different female involved who's in love with the geologist who's protesting things. Anyway, they all fall through the ice into the kingdom of the ice giants. And eventually what's revealed is the geologist who's fighting for the environment has teamed up with the ice giants, and he's a bad guy. And so in a weird way, even though the story creates a strong case against, oil and drilling and stuff, in a weird way, at the end, the person who was against the oil drilling was the bad guy, and we leave it at that. So it's like Len Wein perhaps was more pro-oil than Denny O'Neil. I don't know. I just found it a very strange mix.
Interesting.
And in one of these, let's see, the Great One is coming. Look sharp, look up, look out. Behind you, above you, all around you, the boom tube. So they're advertising Jack Kirby coming to DC Comics, but they're not naming him, and he hasn't come yet.
Maybe they didn't sign the contract yet.
Well, they're saying the Great One is coming. They're mentioning the boom tube, so they know about that from New Gods. And all its awesome wonders coming to National, which is what DC was called then in 1970. People, places, things. So powerful in concept, it's almost terrifying. People, places, things. It's so terrifying. Anyway, it's just kind of weird to me what DC was publishing at the time. These kind of jumbled stories with messages, sort of, and magical creatures like the Phantom Stranger and this Tala person who just almost randomly do things and seem to change sides, and who knows what the real message here is. I still think even with Len Wein, I think it's kind of an attempt at an environmental message, but he thought it was an interesting twist to make the strongest voice of environmentalism actually evil. So I guess he's an early eco-terrorist or something. And both have great Neil Adams covers.
And that makes it a comic book very expensive just because of that.
Well, I don't know.
I was
going
to say, I'm a big fan of the winter covers.
They're not, it's not like buying a Batman cover with Neil Adams or something like that.
I don't know. Sometimes I think just because it's his doing on the cover, it just becomes like a.
It might depend on the dealer, because I'm pretty sure I did not pay a lot for these two.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe in the $5 to $10 range, and I guess they're readers' copies from the point of view. To me, they seem good, but a serious collector might find them just to be reader copies.
Subjective matter as well.
Yeah. Have you read much Phantom Stranger, Terrence? I assume that you.
I've got a few of the issues. The earliest issue that I have is number 16, though. I don't have anything earlier than that. I've read a few because I think one of the reasons I went for it is after reading that Black Orchid miniseries, because Black Orchid is a backup story in a couple of the later Phantom Stranger stuff too. And it's just not a character that I've ever dove into, but I don't have anything as early as, I think number 4 was the first one you showed. Is that what you said? 16 is my earliest.
I showed number 4 last time, and this was number 8 and number 16. No, sorry, number 19. So another thing is they keep throwing in things about who the Phantom Stranger works for somebody who's older than the Ice Giants. But it's unclear if he works for God or maybe just some kind of being that's ancient. And I wish I knew, could hear interviews with
I thought, and maybe I'm wrong about this,
what they know
thought
about
Phantom Stranger was linked with Dead Man as far as, and I'm forgetting the name now of the kind of entity that Dead Man answers to. I thought there was a tie-in there somehow.
Or something like that, or no, something, but
There's
something kind of Indian.
Deadman is Indian god. It's tied to something.
Right.
Like I forgot the name of it as well. But yeah.
And I thought
in
Phantom
the New
Stranger was tied
52,
into that.
He was Judas, who was forced to live as the Phantom Stranger and do the will of God, apparently. But I don't think that back then they were thinking that. I think that was just Dan DiDio's idea because he wrote that one.
I've read a couple of Phantom Strangers in these thick showcase books because the black and white reproductions are pretty. They're
I bet
fantastic.
this might look even better in black and white.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have really a chunk of these stories that you can read through.
Yeah,
and
those were
I can't recollect or remember any higher concept. So that
they hint at a higher concept, but maybe don't even have a higher concept.
maybe, or they come up with it later. Yeah.
Anyway, I have fun reading them. I think, though, I think they would look better in black and white, but I think reading too many at once would be overwhelming because there's not much real personality. It's just the oddness of them I like.
Yeah. Yeah. As it is with these thick books, I take one and read maybe 50 pages and put it back.
Right. That's the way to do it, I think.
Yeah. Speaking of high concepts, or not so high concepts, Alan Moore. And so I already spoke about this book here, Code Pru, earlier one, I guess a bit short in the chat and did a video about it. It's part of the series Cinema Purgatorio. And as I figured out now, these books here, the way how they are made, so far it seems to be a German-only thing. These are translations into German of the series that were former reproduced in the Cinema Purgatorio magazines, I guess, somehow. And Modded is another series, not as recommended as Code Pru, which is really a fun book written by Garth Ennis and has lots of these Garth Ennis craziness. But Modded is very entertaining as well. It is playing in the general premise is that we are in a Pokemon world. I mean, I'm just familiar with Pokemon because of my kids, or way back then it was a huge thing, and maybe it still is. And Pokemon and lots of other games like Super Mario, for instance, are the references here of this world in which this little girl, okay, here, the art here is really dense and intense, so it's maybe not really good to see on the screen. She lost her little monster, her Pokemonish character, Fluff Bumble, and his superpowers are to create flowers. So he's not really up against these kind of monsters. Okay, she's just there to satisfy the man. I don't think I show you the next picture. I guess it's not for kids actually in this kind of sense, even though I don't know. I mean, this book was drawn by two artists, Ignacio Calero and Nahuel Lopez. However, Mr. Calero does this very dense, interesting art, which has always the downside that you're sometimes a bit lost in all the details that he draws. It takes a bit of time to figure out what actually happens there. But these stories are really not that complex. It's all about the girl taking her monsters to compete with the monsters of other guys. So it's this Pokemon thing, that you put your monster against the monster of some other competitor or gamer. And she has this little monster guy who does a bit of modding, and this is the modded version. I can sense some red thread going on through today's chat here.
Well, we needed some male genitalia today, right? So
Yeah. Thank you.
I try to skip the next stuff here, but it's so, and however, so, and we have other gaming situations like here where maybe when you see this, it's not really clear that this is just a gamer comic or so, but when you read it, it's totally there. And sometimes the characters just stop in the middle of their motion, and then they're loading up because they're just old characters from old video games or computer games. And so, and the whole story is told through these little snippets. Each story is 7 pages or so, or chapter, I have to say. And you have always summary of what happened before in front of these pages, so you're not lost. But Kieran Gillen, who wrote all the stuff here, has lots of crazy ideas, and it's a real fun package. Kieran Gillen was a writer. I mean, you know him, of course, for several, The Wicked and the Divine, and stuff like that. But before he wrote comic books, he wrote reviews for gamer magazines, and so he had lots of knowledge and had the stuff in his brain, and now it converged into these comic stories.
Was this earlier in his career, or is this a more recent book?
I guess it was rather recent, even though.
I'm surprised I didn't hear about it, but
yeah, it was part of the Cinema Purgatorio series.
Oh, I see. Right, that was not
so.
cool.
And in each book, maybe some 7-8 pages or so. So it went a long while, but really, it's fun to read this in snippets, but I get, or in parts. But I guess it makes more sense to read it in some kind of trade form, because some of these ideas are so wild and out there, and this froggish thing here with his genitalia and so on. Like video characters, he has special abilities that he can use, and he uses them in the next chapter, so it's maybe a bit difficult to follow all the story. So, and I'm really curious what will come next out of the series. Seemingly, the Cinema Purgatorio comics are really entertaining. At least for me, it's absolutely up my alley.
I collected about the first 6 issues and put them in a box and never read them. So I need to dig them up now that I know what's inside them.
Yeah, you should. Also, especially Code Brü, as I said it before, this is somehow one of the better stuff that I've read from Garth Ennis in a long
and those are German language editions, right?
Yeah.
Because Ragamuffin saying he didn't know they did these at once, and maybe they haven't done them in this format in English.
But I think there is some sign that there will be maybe a collected edition in English as well, because it's Avatar in the English version. So this publisher is a bit other than others, so it will be maybe a bit difficult. But I guess they would be stupid if this is probably, I don't know about Avatar, but most of the rest of the books are pretty, not everybody's kind of stuff, but this has to be, I guess, more seen by more people.
I might be wrong, but I think Avatar completely stopped publishing during COVID and has only recently started back up.
Okay.
So there might be just delays there for the English language market.
Yeah. So, okay. So, sorry, I just put my silly face here all over. So, okay. Are you up for another round?
I'm good. I mean, that's up to you guys.
Aren't already penalty shootouts?
Almost. That's
almost
4 minutes left, because looks like it's gonna be better. My prediction is
sorry.
1-1.
It seems to
1-1.
be. Yeah. Oh. I'm all up for England to win eventually some trophy, but it would be such an injustice, because Italy played such a good football in comparison to England. So,
it looks like it's very dramatic match. Lots of typical Italian drama. Is they flying, crying. English is sweating the ass off as well, and lots of fighting. Very looks like very stressful game. Even like me just glancing is like, woof, you guys are stressing yourself out. But yeah, that's part of
So let's relax with some comics then.
Yeah. So I guess it's my next, but I'm gonna maybe talk to you guys first. But I don't know, have you managed to? I don't know how I managed, but I managed to watch the Black Widow movie. Decided to entertain myself and my husband to the new movie. And why I'm mentioning that, because I read this issue after that, and I was very, very surprised, because I wasn't kind of aware how Black Widow used to look, and in here it's actually really great showmanship of how the first appearance of her costume, I presume, because of course Black Widow appeared in Tales of Suspense 52 years. I presume anyway. I don't really remember. I don't know if that's correct fact. Anyway, so the movie I watched, which I thoroughly enjoyed, by the way, I'm not going to spoil it because it just came out. So a lot of people are talking a lot of things about it, but acting was superb. Maybe the story was could have been better, but I thoroughly enjoyed it because it gave me a couple of things I wasn't aware from this comic book, mainly about the character who was in the comic book, but he was kind of a different character. So like always, Marvel has I'm talking about the Red Guardian. So Red Guardian in the movie is a Russian guy, and apparently in this comic book, Red Guardian was Black Widow's ex-husband, which in the movie that's not what happened anyway. So this was honestly, I was gushing while reading this, because Peter Parker. It was really handsome. Everything actually. Peter Parker, all the females, everything drawn so beautifully, and maybe this digital format, really almost like high definition or HDR version of a comic kind of thing. It really, I was surprised how beautiful and all overly beautiful people this here. So this is Black Widow. We get it the first page in this comic book. So it's Stan Lee, John Romita, and Jim Mooney illustrators, and Sam Rosen as a letterer. So in this sensational comic book, we find out about new costume of adventurer comes into the being. So what Black Widow is not happy to what she is. Her past is coming into her too much, and she is really struggling to kind of be herself and what she wanted to be. So that's her. That's kind of like almost to be honest, doesn't it look like DC's Catwoman from the olden times?
Yeah,
just maybe that different color. I'm not sure, but it did remind me of that. And then there's lots of a backstory of how her past in here. So you have she was married. She was a lovers with Hawkman. I didn't know that they were lovers. There's the one thing I was kind of not aware of it. But she that's the Red Guardian of that era who she was married to, her husband. This is the guy. And of course she was working for Nick Fury. She was used, blah blah blah. And then she has this idea. I'm gonna make myself a costume and I'm gonna design it. She looks like she's a beautiful artist as well. She can draw really well. And then she designs her costume, and she's basically decides to do this. She's want to find out how a Spider-Man has this power. So she's going to absorb him to understand how he can be so strong and stuff like that. But in here, it seems to be Spider-Man struggling. He has a disease. Or something is going on with him and stuff like that. And then apparently in this era, his girlfriend is Gwen Stacy. And then she's like, "Oh, you appeared because he's struggling because he had this huge fight, and you can even see the bruises on Superhero, which you don't tend to see it often. But look at how okay, come on, tablet, work with me here. How dreamy this Spider-Man is, or Peter Parker is. Anyway, so the beauty of the digital comic books, you can really blow all the panels out and just enjoy. Anyway, so yeah, really. So basically, that's her costume. That beautiful costume she's wearing, which I really. Like what I know Black Widow is supposed to look like, and I really like it. I think it's really nicely done. And
I wonder if it was inspired by Emma Peel.
Oh, okay. Who's Emma Peel?
The character from the Avengers.
Oh,
the British
I see.
Avengers.
Yeah.
She often wore the black bodysuit.
Yeah. Anyway, so this basically they come into grasp off together, but she decides it's basically not to. They fight. We're having this major fight going on because she's basically it's like, what is it? You don't have the powers I was thinking you have. But Peter Parker is really struggling. He has maybe injuries, like sports injuries from fighting superheroes, so he's not himself really. But he still managed to untie himself from her, what is this? What did she call them? I'm not sure what you call her. The strings anyway, but as I say, it's really entertaining. And knowing more Black Widow like this, I would definitely would like to read more about her, and I will, because in Unlimited there is a special feature of the characters, the upcoming characters. I guess in Marvel Universe, I guess that's how they now advertise themselves as well in there, and then. Yeah, she just glad she because of the situation she created this new costume, and then she has her she got inspired once again to be like a superhero, or to be what she wanted to be. So yeah, and as I say, beautifully done comic book. Honestly, I really enjoyed reading it. Maybe this is, as like I always say when I do read Marvel Limited in this digital format, it seems to be just really works for me. This blown up panels, it reads really easily, even though it's kind of overcomplicated. Like a lot of speech bubbles and stuff like that. But it's the more I read and discover, especially if I have that kind of feeling of wanting to do that, is definitely something I really like to do and find out. Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
Very good. Black Widow is a kick-ass character, by the way. And another female I thoroughly enjoy.
I always love looking at those old John Romita Spider-Mans. Everything's pretty. like you said.
And just how the colors stand out on even, and again, it's for sure the digital part too, but it's really great to look at.
Yeah, it's really cool to as I say. I don't know. It makes it easier to read those Silver Ages, those overly bubble, written bubbles and stuff like that. It's really kind of somehow makes it much less like too much of a job. Like sometimes you pick up your Silver Age book and you're like, you keep on flipping it. Story is entertaining, but you kind of always see how much you have left. But in digital, you just keep on swiping. Like I always do.
So maybe I'll open this up. Which of these two? I don't know. I'm assuming, Damien, you've read one or maybe both of these.
I've read The Nice House.
Nice House, okay.
But not.
So let's go Nice House then. What did you think of book 2? I'm still on board.
I'm still on board too.
I thought this was a pretty interesting issue. One of the things that I enjoyed about it, which I normally don't, because it sometimes feels like a bit of a cop-out, but I think it worked well in this kind of transcript, and then the kind of security camera footage just talking about kind of going back to the end of the first issue, everybody's reaction to what was going on. I thought that worked really well. Getting a lot of information across, but also kind of hinting at other things.
I had one problem with the transcripts. I had forgotten most of the characters.
I see.
kind of wish if he'd given us a thing with a picture of each character and what their label was, reporter, artist, and all of that.
Right.
I think it would have helped going forward, because I read these transcripts and then I see pictures of the characters and I don't know which one of these were the ones that said the things in the transcripts. So
I hear that. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
If I read issue 1 and issue 2 consecutively, in the same day, I think it would have made this a lot easier of a read, because he tags all the characters in the first issue. The problem is it's a month later for me, and I have already put the first issue in a box somewhere and I don't want to dig it out.
Yeah, that's right. But, yeah.
So I think that was my only complaint.
Okay.
On that.
What did you think of the art? I need to go back and see the first issue, but it feels like there's a difference in the way that this art is presented in this issue.
I thought so too. Like, is it got a heavier? What's the right word? There's something about the way the colors are kind of melded and smudged together.
Yeah, that's exactly like the texture of the colors. That's exactly what I was thinking.
The colors seem to have changed, if I'm remembering correctly. It's almost like if someone switched media, maybe from acrylics to pastels or something. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, when I opened the first couple of pages, I had a moment of like, wait a sec, is this a book where they're going to have different artists on each issue? And then as I got through it a little more, I have yet to kind of put them side by side to do a comparison. But I think this is a really interesting premise. Sorry, say that again, Damien?
It's the same artist and the same colorist, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely George. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's absolutely the same creative team. There's just something that looks a little different. But again, that might just be my memory of it.
It's like,
this was kind of a
kind of streak across it. I was looking at the same page. Yeah.
This was a good kind of next step in the story. Like there was a little bit of, there's more information given, but it's still kind of, they're still in this phase of figuring out what the fuck is going on out there, let alone what's going on inside. I mean, it was nice to get this little kind of Easter egg of the library that's been stocked with all these books and specifically in this panel, comics that he's recommended to his friends over the years. Everything is stockpiled here. Everything they could possibly need is in this house,
and pictures was great. Pictures are full of tons of detail, like that one you showed earlier of them in their old college dorm room. There's so much detail in there, and that detail is actually informs you of what kind of people they are and that kind of thing.
Right. And I like these little details of kind of like the layout of the house. Here's the rooms and here's their, they don't give you a big overview, or at least not that I saw anyway, but those kind of touches, the way the panels are kind of broken up here, I kind of dug as well. And again, it's still enough that you don't really know what the hell is going to go on in the next issue. So there's still enough left, and there's a good hint of their host. Yeah, here's another good page. I really like
kind
this
of
one as
appearing
well,
and reappearing in these strange forms.
Yeah, and sort of kind of using not using one of the members, but suggesting to one of the members of this group that, hey, you got to start talking about. Well, maybe I won't show that page. Start talking about, this idea of setting themselves a schedule and sort of getting back to some normal routines and trying to like push what's happening out there out of their heads. For what end, we'll see. And I also got to say, this is 2 issues now where we've had this kind of title page that I'm a huge fan of. It gives it this kind of extra cinematic feel,
Except they now had another chance to remove that mountain that could not be in Wisconsin. It reminded me all over. Wait a minute, there's a giant mountain in Wisconsin.
Yeah. This is the page you were talking about earlier with all the detail.
Yeah, so I poured over that to see, what kind of things they had in college. They were into comics, amongst other things. Yeah. The weird both issues have had like the first page or page or 2 this flash sometime later.
Oh, did we lose you, Damien? We lost Damien.
You can't hear me?
Oh, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So both of those flash forward pages didn't tell me much, and I feel like I'll have to go back to them and read them later when I know more. And that's really the only thing that frustrates me about this. I feel like this artist is next level. I feel like he's right up there, right behind Wes Craig, and so I'm just kind of look forward to seeing what he'll do next with the layouts and the character or the art styles and stuff. So and it's 12 issues.
Unlike the first book, like the first issue, it really had the voice of, with all these symbols at the top, each a different one being highlighted for each issue, I imagine is what it's going to be. So in some sense, like that's the narrator for the issue. I felt like that narrator's voice was stronger in the first issue. I don't know if that's a bad thing, though, that it wasn't as strong in this issue. I don't think it seemed to be like, here's the gimmick with giving everybody this symbol and having this layout on the page. We're going to follow this one person's story, where they don't necessarily do that. They absolutely touch on him for sure.
Right. But they jump around to other people. And this kind of thing has no point of view or, a omniscient point of view.
Right.
But it has, at first I thought, well, all the mysteries have already been given out in the first book, but it looks now like there's going to be more and more mysteries. That are quite intriguing. I think what I need to do is I need to pull out the first issue and keep that somewhere handy, because I think with each issue I'm going to need to be reminded. Because I'm not sure. I think there's 10 or 12 characters that we need to keep track of.
I think and maybe a little legend on the first page. 369. I mean, there's 10 symbols on the top of the front cover there, so I'm guessing that there's only 10 characters plus kind of the host. So
plus the host. So 11 characters total to keep track of.
Right.
But
I dug it though. I'm glad I tried it out.
Amazing that it's coming from DC.
I
don't think they have any other really out there comics. James
Black Label. So there's bound to be dick all through this there, Rasa, at some point.
There should be, but there hasn't been either male or female gays or gay gays or anything in this book. So.
Right.
I'm sorry. Transsexual character, but they don't make a big deal out of it or anything.
Yeah.
It's I'm sorry. I'm watching this penalty shootout and it's already being crazy.
So you have no idea what book we've been talking about.
No, nice lake, something on a house or whatever. House lake on
nice
a lake.
Lake on the house.
Yes, the Tinian book. I know. I'm not reading that, but it's definitely something like to think of it. But honestly, I can't. England is about to be murderized, but they could have won. Is it going
to be a riot in your town?
No, maybe not. We just saved one. So Italy, sorry, I'm gonna cut it short because it's crazy. Italy missed first. Then everybody are like already celebrating England about to win. England misses. Then Italy scores, and then England misses again. And if Italy scores, this is it. But he saved it. So now it's another. Oh my God! It's like 3-3 or 4-4, whatever. Oh, anyway, sorry. I'm sorry about this football shootout.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, he needs to score. English needs to score now to win. If he doesn't, they're screwed. They are screwed.
We should switch to our comic reporter live on the scene.
They did it. They missed. Oh my God! Italy just won.
Italy won.
Yeah.
Okay.
2-1.
Sorry.
It's reaction. There's no reaction in the stadium, so I thought maybe there's something. It's like something else happens, but no. Italy won.
Oh boy.
England lost. My God. Oh, they had so much chance, but they penalty shootout. They missed 3 out of 5. So.
Okay.
That's crazy.
It can't be long until car courses with driving the street here from our Italian friends.
Yeah,
and celebrating.
I'm pleased for
Italian
Italians.
community in your area.
No, not but Italians are very outspoken, and
so the few that are there will be outspoken.
Yeah. They won against Austria before in that tournament, and it's not a big thing to win against Austria, but all the Italians in a very little city went crazy and totally bonkers, and until 3 o'clock in the night. So it was well deserved. They played fantastic. So I guess, but now you see, it's a very big thing over here, and so.
Well, I experienced it because in 1986, I think it was 1986, I was in Rio de Janeiro when they lost the final to Germany. When the Brazilians lost the final to Germany, is that, or they lost it something?
No.
86?
No.
Well, then my memory's all wrong, because a group of people came up to me and my fellow American friend and accused us of being German, and we had to convince them we weren't.
Not the final, at least.
Maybe it was a semifinal or something else, but maybe it's what eliminated Brazil that year. I don't know.
Yeah.
For English football, generally, the last time they were anywhere close, they won last time, it was 1966. For the nation who is completely and utterly think football only, it's like they would have had, like, they would be on a 9 cloud. And then unfortunately, that's not going to happen again for them. But this team, honestly, I mean, whatever that guy, the coach did, English coach did, I mean, to get them through past the next hurdle and be in the final, that didn't happen for so many years. But still, just getting into penalty shootouts is the worst thing. What for England, it's always happened. It seems to be still not fixed. So, geez, I think they should be just shooting penalties from now on. And if no millions for you if you don't shoot a penalty. That's what I would do. You can't have those monies like this anymore. Score me a penalty, I'll give you the money back, kind of thing. But so sad for them. I'm actually upset, kind of. I don't know what. I've been living in here for so long, and I've seen this passion for them for that football. I'm not as passionate about football for sure, but so sad. Anyway,
this feels like the one thing that's more rational in the United States.
Yeah, it's very crazy with people, like what they do and the fans, how they are. It's like they trashed Leicester Square like absolutely crazily. And then I mean, I know that's the obsession part of this, but
that's the problem, I guess, that it's almost war for these hooligan type of fans. And I guess it's different. One friend said to me that it's different with American football, in which all the fans of the different teams sit close to each other, so they're not so opposed. Here you have to separate them because they.
in most places, the most people are going to do is shout at each other a little bit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Here
You should
they
see-
go at each
And
other's
most of
throats.
us will shift teams all the time because, you know, it's not one country versus another country.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's crazy what football fans do to the streets when they celebrate. It's absolutely, you shouldn't be there. I mean, I wouldn't want to I wouldn't want my child to be next to, because it's absolutely bonkers, honestly.
Mm.
I like sporting events. I like going, for example, rugby events, and the fans are different. It's very different experience. Anyway, okay, let's stop. Let's stop talking about this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Back
sorry
to
about
comics
this.
and
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm going to return to the male gaze because the only other comic I've read this week so far
please
is
with penises.
Red Sonja.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so this is a Dynamite Comics reprinting a Marvel comic, which is
Whoa,
kind of funny.
It's
one of those what do you call it?
facsimiles.
Facsimile. They're calling it a facsimile
Mm-hmm.
of the first issue of Red Sonja. And surprisingly, the first issue of Red Sonja just has a half of it is a Frank Thorne story, and the other half is a reprint story from Savage Tales, which is a Red Sonja story also.
Mm-hmm.
And the even though it says colored by Frank Thorne, it looks like someone redid the coloring to me, or maybe something went wrong in the printing press. It just doesn't look, or maybe it just changed so much from going from newsprint to the slick paper here, but it just doesn't look like a Marvel comic from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Color-wise.
Yeah, it's very.
Yeah, I think someone touched it up, so to speak. It's a bit too shiny or something.
It's definitely feels like they try to give the depth into some of the characters, like it's less 2D, more 3D kind of thing.
Yeah, little touches of molding here and there, which just don't work well with Frank Thorne artwork, which was very flat on purpose, I think. So the art is beautiful, the color's a little annoying, and it's an extremely simple story where Red Sonja, well, yes, some women, Jared, yes, there are a good number of women who like looking at beautiful women. That's not to put down the male gaze. It's, I don't know what you would call that, the heterosexual gaze. I don't know what. Anyway, it's a very simple story where Red Sonja finds a group of some kind of savage tribe trying to capture this horse and rip its horn off. It turns out to be a unicorn, and she runs in and fights on the unicorn's side, and they become allies and run off into the woods together to live together for a while, it seems. And then they return to get their vengeance on that tribe, and then they go their separate ways, and that's the whole story. But despite its simplicity, it was written by Roy Thomas and Clara Noto from a plot by Ed Summer. So it basically had 3 writers for that simple story. But anyway, I enjoyed it. I thought I was going to get a whole issue of Frank Thorne artwork, but I wasn't too disappointed when I realized this was a reprint of Esteban Marato's one work on Red Sonja, where Neil Adams was inking him.
Whoosh.
And this one is definitely recolored. It says colored by Jose Villarrubia, and I know he's a current colorist. But he didn't do too bad of a job. Of course, this was originally a black and white story, but I do think it maybe was colorized at some point at Marvel also. Well, presumably it was in color when they reprinted it at the back of this Red Sonja. So, and I don't know if you've read, I think you have Rasa, and I don't know about the others, the Barry Smith Red Sonja story with Conan.
Yeah.
Where they go into a tower and steal this special, like little dragon statue or something together.
I don't recall, but
this is
I
like
do
what
know.
happens to Red Sonja afterwards.
Wow, really?
Hi, Lillian. Good to see you. Keep your father in line.
She is.
Good. That's her job. So Red Sonja stole this item that she then, to keep it for herself at the end of that issue, she knocks out Conan and rides off into the sunset. And this is what happened afterwards. She went back to the king who had hired her. What country is it? I can't remember. And I can't. Anyway, she's Harkanian. Anyway, she returns to this king. There's their flashback to her adventures with Conan. And she returns to this king with the little dragon statue that he asked her to steal for him. And he then says, "Where's my reward?" And he says, "Here's your reward. It's becoming part of my harem."
Oh yeah. That's what he'd been doing that to her. You all females.
Great reward for her.
Yeah.
And so there's a long scene of them bathing her and dressing her up and perfuming her. And then she goes into her first night with the king. And then of course she kills the king.
Of course she does. Because
she throws a knife into, in a modern comic that would be a double page splash, but it's just a little panel. She throws the knife into the king's throat.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was fun rereading this. I know I read it a long time ago, but I maybe didn't make the connection of how it's a direct sequel to that Conan book that I love. And Esteban Morato looks a lot different inked by Neil Adams. So it doesn't look at all like what I normally think of him as, but it is really beautiful art. So it's a fun little item, but and I haven't gotten to my main stack of comics yet. I have about 12 more comics to read before I can do my weekly video. But anyway, good comics so far. And this kind of fit in with Barbaric, I guess.
Her first appearance, Red Sonja. I just wanted to take it out. Stickers.
Is that number 24 or number 23?
Yeah, number 24.
Okay, yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, so that's that's Barry Smith, Red Sonja.
Right.
Marvel way.
Yeah, and I think with Esteban Morato, she still. Oh no, they gave her the metal armor in there. Although in the flashback she doesn't have it. Weird.
Yeah, they do have they tender moments as well in this comic book.
Well, he tries to make out with her and she punches him, right? Or pushes him away.
Yeah, she's like, "What?" And then she pushes him away. So, but yeah, Barry's. I just love looking at Red Sonja. But it's funny enough. So, Marvel owns Red Sonja's rights, or Dynamite now owns Red Sonja's rights.
Dynamite. So originally, the Robert E. Howard estate owned it, even though really Roy Thomas created her just using a name from a poem by Robert E. Howard.
Yeah.
And then the Robert E. Howard estate sold off separate pieces. So there's like a Conan company and a Red Sonja company, and they're separate, which is weird. So they can't really meet unless the two companies agree to have a crossover here and there.
Yeah, because I was just like, it's Marvel, but I was thinking to check Marvel Unlimited for Red Sonja, and it's not present. So I bet because of the rights is not there. So
right. So I guess
not gonna have
they even have the rights to the old Marvel comics to reprint.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to actually look for. I have that number 1, but I'm not sure where. Like I'm reshuffling my organization stuff. So
you have the original Marvel number 1.
Yeah.
I'd love to compare the color someday. But
I'll definitely next chat remind me of that. I'll definitely, guys, you can point that out and I can show to you what's the original one it looks like, because I know I have it. Now it's gonna bother me because I don't see it where it's supposed to be, and I was like, oh, where did I put it? It's like a puzzle piece missing,
Yeah.
Okay, then I do one.
Zesty Clam says, "Don't worry, Disney will buy them both."
Is Conan not copyright free?
It's copyright free in Europe.
Yeah.
But I think through legal trickery in the United States, it's trademarked.
Oh.
So So they reprint the European Conans without putting the name Conan on the cover because
You're not allowed to use the name.
it's very weird. But I think once you start doing things in movies and the like, you can get rights in different ways than the regular copyright laws.
Okay, interesting. I have something. One of the lesser known comic tropes is that each character of a longer running series has to have inherit a castle in Scotland once in a while. So it's of course with Scrooge McDuck and a lot of other characters, but Batman as well. So this is one of my random picks of my Omnibus Volume 9 that I got recently, and I've shown you another story before. And this is totally bonkers. Totally.
I love that drawing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really nice. It's Dick Sprang again.
Yes, Dick Sprang.
Yeah, and the types that are drawn like a skirt, a Scottish skirt.
Kilt?
Kilt.
Yeah, exactly. So and he and Robin, they do their detective thing because he inherited the castle of this old McLaughlin, or how it's his name? Yeah, this old Scottish family. They are accused of robbing the money of the Scottish king centuries ago, and they weren't have not been able to clear their name until Batman arrives, and there we have him. And of course, there are some crooks as well, but he can do his detective thing. Wait, just a few pages, and I can't find. Here. He does his detective thing. There. They are looking for the gold, and
you can hear gold
low everywhere, but eventually it's in these weights of the clock, and the clock just doesn't tick right. The clock just doesn't work, and that's because these weights are not of lead, but of gold, and just with a thin layer of lead. And that's what our Batman figures out there. And Robin, of course, he goes for the bagpipe there, and Bruce is not really amused by it. But so it just has the silly charm. And the best thing is no story, no comic in Scotland is complete without the monster of Loch Ness. And we have this monster here. Of course, it's a mechanical one, because as our Batman says, this monster just doesn't behave like a snake. It doesn't move like this. And so he can go into the head of this mechanical snake right there. And yeah, totally charming short story, and totally worth the reading of this episode.
Too bad Dick Sprang and Carl Barks couldn't have teamed up to do a Scotland comic together.
That would be great, yeah. Absolutely. So, yeah, that was this. Yeah, do you want more, or should we call it a day or a night or evening?
I want to talk about Loki, but I don't know if...
Okay.
It's just that
I caught up with Loki.
Whoa! That's now we want to know what you think about it. Well, the last episode. First of all, before you start, Sleepy Terrence, the last episode. What do you think?
I'm curious to hear what Damien has to say about it. I didn't like it. I thought it suffered from the same thing that happened in episode 3. Like, the one thing I'm noticing about this show is I don't know what it is about it. And again, maybe this is just the person working on film sets and movie lover in me, but it seems to have these moments where it ramps up, and we got to do this thing. Okay, let's stop everything so we can sit on the side of the hill and have a fucking conversation. Like, it was literally driving me nuts. Like, it's happened so many times in this show where there's this kind of build up to the excitement, and then it just completely stops. Like, sorry, I thought we were doing this thing with this big cloud shark dragon thing. Now we're stopping. Like, it just really takes me right out of it. But then right at the end, it got my interest again, where I'm curious to see where it goes. Like I said, I'm going to watch all the episodes, but honestly, it's not really doing it for me. It has these moments that were good, but there's just those things I find really distracting, and I don't quite understand it. The acting at parts seems really stiff, and the dialogue seems really stiff. Like I said, there really seems to be this thing with some of these bigger scenes. I'm assuming everything is shot on a green screen, where it feels like something that happens, especially with the new digital technology, is there's always this, let's shoot the rehearsal. So they do a rehearsal of the scene and they film it. And then I'm wondering if some of that has made it into the show, because it still feels like there's people that are just, they're worried more about hitting their marks and figuring out their space in this green screen world, which must be really bizarre. I've never worked on a show that's been all green screen. It must be really hard as an actor to wrap your head around it. Like, so there's going to be what here? There's going to be smoke and trying to figure out how to interact. So there feels like this disjointed kind of quality with like the acting and the story that's really taking me out of it. And again, I think one of my old film teachers used to say that once you start working on sets and stuff like that, it starts to ruin your ability to enjoy movies and TV because you see all those technical things. So it feels like it's part of that for me, where it's like, what the heck? And it's really it's taking me out of the story a little bit, you know. And again, I'm completely willing to accept that that's a me thing, that it may be working phenomenally for everybody else. But my interaction with it is really like, I don't know, man. It's not doing it for me. So there's my tirade. There's my 10 cents worth of opinion.
I can say that what I really enjoyed is that Loki, who has been able to use the way he was using those powers of his, and then the manipulation and that storyline. I think he was the stellar actor of them all. I do agree about all that line of the conversation and then all that stuff, which was just distracting a lot of the story. If I wish they didn't have that moment, I think it would have worked really well. The crocodile was a hilarious moment. Really liked that one part, especially when he was chewed one Loki's hand off. That was the hilarious part. But yeah, it's roller coaster ride, isn't it? It can have really good ups and really, really, really good downs. And then it's like that. The only thing what probably is the same with you and me, Terrence, is that underlying plot line, who and what it is. You know, there's lots of theories. Thankfully, I'm not watching them all. Like some house of, like you can see in the distance. And that's the only thing what keeps me interested still, because I'm not, like it's building up to that point at the end of the day. And you do want to find out because you've been investing in 5 episodes, and then, yes, kind of give it to me. But I don't know how we're going to wrap it up, to be honest. Do you like what's the wrap up will be like? Because if it's one more episode left. But honestly, with this show, you never know. It's like
the one theory that I hope comes true is that, and this is just me praying in the back of my mind, would be phenomenal if we get a little taste of Kang. I don't know that that's very realistic, but of all the theories that I've heard about the show, that's the one that resonates. Like, yes, that's the nerd in me going, yes, bring that on. Give me a little taste of Kang. I think would be phenomenal. I don't know that that's really going to happen, though.
Sleepy disappeared.
Chaos in Comics says, I have to talk about my feelings with my wife. I don't need to hear gods do it so much. Yeah, that's and I think to Jared's point, like Jared says that you have to specifically not let it ruin movies for you. I've seen it happen in comics too and done my best to avoid it. And for the most part, I can avoid it. I can kind of take myself out of it, enjoy it. But for some reason, there's just something with this one where I'm having a hard time doing that, like separating the work life from enjoying a piece of entertainment, right? I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I don't know what it is specifically about this one, but there's something there that's just not working for me. That said, though, I saw the newest What If trailer, and I'm still looking, even though the animation itself doesn't blow me away, I'm still looking forward to see what they do in those in that series. I think will be fun, or I'm hopeful that'll be fun anyway.
I didn't watch the trailer once again. Is it animated series then? What If?
Correct. Yeah, animated. Yeah.
Okay. No,
but not like a good hand drawn animation. More like a kind of clunky CG type of animation. Those are my words. Clunky is my word. But it's that's the part that sort of turns me off. But that said, I'm still curious because I think there's room there to maybe tell some interesting stories there, one-offs, right? So yeah, we've lost Damien, I guess.
Yeah, it's a pity. Now we're definitely not going to know his opinion because maybe he has the theory of the bad guy. Because I don't know what about this house. There's this, like I know houses they're prominent in DC. Somehow I'm aware of that, like House of Mystery and House of that whatever. But in Marvel, I've never knew there was a house of prominent, kind of like House of M, but that's a group of people, and we do have a house, but that's the only how far my history of Marvel goes through. So yeah, I don't know. They all like Doom. It looked like more like a Doom castle, maybe in the distance. It could have been, but yeah, who knows? But anyway, we'll see what's we're gonna do with that. But yeah, it's a pity Sleepyreader won't be saying us his opinion.
Oh,
Easy. Are you back?
Again.
Yeah. What happened?
I have this terrible Windows computer laptop, and it decided even though it was plugged in, it didn't have enough energy to keep going.
Oh, I see.
So now I've switched to my desktop.
I see. Okay.
Is Loki on Netflix or sorry?
On Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. Okay.
So sorry, I missed a little bit there then.
No, we were like saying that I almost repeated Terrence almost to the point. I agree with him on stuff. We are just debating who is the bad guys. So,
okay.
Because of was that castle? Do you think at the end, or was the house? That's the. I didn't freeze the frame. I mean, I thought it
was a castle, but I didn't go back to look.
Because I would think it's Doom's appearance. He could be like really prominent Doom castle, but I don't know. People saying that's. Yeah.
Yes, I'm on the wrong Earth. Well, like when Terrence was talking about his problems with the last episode, was that 4 or 5? 5.
5. Yeah.
So I liked 3 and 4 better. 5, I thought, is where the writing really fell down. I didn't really think about the problem of acting in front of green screens and all of that, but that we're about to do something. No, now we're going to go sit on the hillside and talk vaguely about vague feelings that we have for each other.
Yeah, I
think we're talking romance, but I wasn't even sure what we're talking about. And aren't you're about to face this unknown monster. How come you're not making any plans? They always talk about a plan, but there's never any plan making. There's just talking about vague things. I love the idea of this void place full of alternate Lokis and stuff. And there was moments where that had a little sizzle to it, and then it would go away. And I wish the writers had done more with that. So I view it more, Terrence sees all the technical mistakes and the issues for actors. I viewed it as a huge failure of writing. They didn't really know how we're going to defeat the monster. They didn't know anything about any of the practical parts of the story. So they just fell back on this vague conversation stuff.
Yeah. That's the I think it's like a little bit you can start to understand a little bit of like problematic things with TV shows is how much information you want to give. Like they're
Right.
really trying to tuck it away until we're gonna reveal once the end and let the people have the theories. Because this is the game of the TV shows these days. But it's kind of like you have to give
That's
us
a very
some
good
sort
point.
of. Some sort of like a snippet of information. At least you have a conversation about something at the end of the day, but not like feeling awkward. Oh, is this a blanket? What kind of conversation is bloody that? It's like, oh, you covered me, but is it the blanket? It's like, why would you have that conversation? Why do you feel awkward about each other? It's just like, I'm awkward, kind of like, like, I don't know. Is that two-way conversation that really bothers me? Like that them together, like that love, suppose that ever-changing timeline because of they like each other, like two Lokis like each other kind of thing. So yeah,
Having a relationship with himself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. It
Becky-
feels like incest of some kind.
It feels weird, man. It feels weird.
It's also extremely sad because he cannot find anything else apart of himself. I mean, how bad that's for him and in his future kind of thing, you would think. Because not only, like it was told in this series as well, it's like, but I can't, like you can't find anybody, like you feel always alone, and suddenly you see yourself in the female form. It's like, you know what? Maybe this is for me. But anyway,
But you do still wonder, maybe they will both betray each other in some fashion. I mean, it's in their nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like this romance with himself, you just can't win. It's just a bad direction to go in.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We'll see how they're gonna end.
After we watched that last night, we're not done the first season yet, but we're watching me, my wife, and my son only, not Lillian, because it's too much. It's too intense for her. We're watching the first season of Doom Patrol. I don't know if you've seen any of those episodes, but that one I can recommend wholeheartedly. It is an absolute blast, and it draws from some of the comics, specifically the Grant Morrison stuff. We watched an episode last night with Danny the Street. There was a mouse character whose name I'm forgetting. Admiral Whiskers, I think is what his name was. There's some really, really fun ideas going on in that show. Even though it's not, it's definitely taking from a bunch of different areas, but holy smokes, is it entertaining. I would strongly recommend checking out a couple episodes of that and give that a try.
Are you talking about the second season? Or are you talking about the first season now?
First season. We haven't made it to this. We're almost done the first season now. I think we have 1 or 2 episodes left before the first season is over, and then we'll get our way into the second season.
Yeah, because I watched first season, but I haven't watched the second, so
okay.
I definitely enjoyed it. Yeah. All the characters, everything, the robot man, the troubles, and his voice, of course, because of the actor. I forgot his name once again. He's disappeared, and now we have him in just his voice in the robot, which I really liked. Anyway, I have the most of a run of that Grant Morrison's. I've been trying to get hold of all of it because I really enjoy the art. And of course, Grant Morrison sometimes tickles my fancy to read, but it gives me headache most of the time. So I tend not to. I tend not to read it all the way through. So, yeah.
There was a lot of stuff in that series for sure, but it's nice to see them draw from some of it and not shy away from the weirdness, and really incorporate that in a show. Like, in my opinion, like very well. I think they really incorporate it well. I mean, how are you going to do a superhero show with Danny the Street, a living street that can shift, to other parts of the planet? It's incredibly. I think it's really, really well done. I mean, zesty for sure. Of course, the comics are always better, but the thing is finding that time where they can actually translate that to another media and still do it really well and still kind of retain that essence of the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Or sorry, the essence of the comic, rather. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's my TV rant.
Are you guys gonna watch Black Widow, or you're not? Yeah, nothing.
I'm gonna watch it for sure. Yeah, we just don't know when yet, but definitely we'll watch it. Yeah.
I plan to eventually, but I'm not in the mode to go to movie theaters yet. I just can't quite.
I didn't do movie theater. I did the home because Disney.
Is there a home version? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
there is on Disney. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to pay
like $20 or something.
Yeah, well, basically,
'cause-
2 tickets. It's a cinema, but it's at home.
Right.
Maybe I'll do
Because
that.
our theaters here are still shut, so our only option is to watch it at home still.
Yeah, the theaters will be open here soon, but Disney Plus is just like, give you money first, and then you can go cinema. Anyway,
Right.
Yeah.
But it's only King Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah.
What you can watch.
We saw that on our TV. Me and my son rented it because we had to see it. Man, I really wish we would have just waited to try to see it in the theater because it just wasn't the same. We enjoyed it, but it just wasn't the same on a TV at home. Like, you need that huge IMAX size screen to see that level of destruction.
My son watched it, but he said with a beer or two in his head, it was all right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, maybe not. So
yeah,
it's just big characters, and you kind of like it. You want those details, in the characters they create of the grandeur, and especially the powers and how they fight, and no matter how big your tele is, I don't think it's going to be enough.
Nah, it's not the same.
You have to have
absolutely
cinema
not the same.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
I think we have.
Let's wrap it up.
I need to move inside.
Okay. Then let's say goodbye to our watchers. We had great comments here. I just could highlight some of them, as always. So until next Sunday, I guess. On which channel?
Comickkrakk.
Comickkrakk. Okay. So you all have to look on Comickrack's channel next Sunday to join the fun. So goodbye.
Right on.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
See y'all later.